Chapter 268. For Lin Feng, he received two pieces of news at the same time, one good news and one bad news. The good news was that the lottery system was very helpful this time, and he had obtained a magic treasure embryo. The life-sealing stone was refined with the richest life force, and its vitality was strong enough to rival that of the divine Wutong tree. According to the previous two system upgrades, Lin Feng had more or less figured out some patterns in the grades of the items he obtained. The grade of the items obtained by the lottery system was directly linked to Lin Feng's own cultivation, or rather, to the lottery system's current level. When Lin Feng had first obtained the system, the items he obtained were basically useful for the qi refinement stage, and the better ones were for the foundation establishment stage. After Lin Feng advanced to the foundation establishment stage, after the first upgrade of the system, he did the lottery again. The prizes out of the lottery, foundation establishment stage items are the lowest level, but the highest also won't be higher than the Aurus core stage. Unless he used the lottery system to directly gamble on the good items already available in the system, but the probability of winning the lottery system was too low. After Lin Feng successfully formed his nascent soul, the system upgraded for the second time. This time, the situation was much better. Whether it was the dragon tendon rope or the ecliptic bell hammer, they were both good items. However, it could also be seen that the lottery system at the current level would obtain items suitable for the Yuanying stage. Even if they were not magic treasures for the Yuanying stage, they would still be good materials. Furthermore, items like the ecliptic bell hammer and the life-sealing stone, which were related to primordial spirit magic treasures, should be high-level prizes that the current level of the system could obtain. However, according to Lin Feng's speculation, the current system probably could not directly obtain primordial spirit-level treasures. Items like the ecliptic bell hammer and the life-sealing stone should already be of the highest grade. If he wanted more high-level items, he would have to wait for the system to upgrade again. Even so, it was enough to make Lin Feng feel gratified. Unfortunately, apart from the good news, there was also bad news. Lin Feng looked at the 3 sparkling dice in the dice system, smiling bitterly and speechlessly. If it was a roulette system, it would be perfect. But the dice system, this thing completely depends on luck. Lin Feng shook his head. I hate things that depend on luck. The roulette system was also a test of character, but a 1 in 16 chance and a 1 in 4 chance were two completely different concepts. Although he said that, Lin Feng still unhesitatingly put this chance into the dice system. Thank God, I still have to thank you for not putting the life-sealing stone on 1 and 2. These two numbers that are completely messing with me. With just a thought, Lin Feng had already manipulated the dice and started to throw them. He stared nervously at the 3 spinning dice. 5 points was actually a rather awkward number. It was too small, and there would be no hope if there was a slight mistake. For example, if the first die rolled out a 4, 5, or 6, it would be a tragedy. There was no need to look at the results of the other 2 dice. The bouncing dice very quickly stopped. Lin Feng held his breath and saw that after the first die landed, it was a big dot facing the sky. Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief. There was some hope in his heart. Then he saw the second die roll out. It was a 2. Seeing that, Lin Feng's heart suddenly jumped. There's hope. If the last die rolled out a 2, it would be a success. At that moment, Lin Feng was even more nervous than when he had first rolled the dice. At that time his hope had been slim, but now it was right in front of him. More often than not, when hope was dashed, it would be a greater blow to the person. The dice weren't rolled one by one, but all rolled together, stopping at different times. Therefore, not long after the second die landed, the third die finally stopped rolling completely. Lin Feng looked carefully, and let out a sigh of relief. It's done. The third die rolled out a 2. With a total of 5, Lin Feng successfully drew the life-sealing stone that he wanted the most. He withdrew his consciousness from the system and looked at the 3-inch square, 1-inch thick, gray-white spirit stone in his hand. Lin Feng smiled in satisfaction. Even with the roulette system, I can't get what I want 100% of the time. Today, I got it with the dice system. It seems that my luck is pretty good. Lin Feng smiled and picked up the life-sealing stone to look at it. The spirit stone's surface was as smooth as a mirror. There were no flaws, but there were no patterns or patterns. The gray-white surface emitted a faint purple light. From the outside, this fate sealing stone looked very ordinary. One couldn't feel any powerful spiritual energy fluctuations coming from it. It looked like an ordinary stone brick, not a magical treasure embryo that could make all the cultivators in the world go crazy over it. But when Lin Feng used his magic power and divine sense to enter it, he could immediately feel the boundless vitality inside the spirit stone. It was as if it was nurturing a whole new universe. This was not the life force that a simple life could possess. Instead, it was a power that seemed to be able to reopen a new world and give birth to thousands of living beings. Lin Feng held the life-sealing stone and thought to himself, "It's a pity that I can't refine this life-sealing stone into a magic treasure now. Otherwise, I wonder how powerful it would be." Refining a magic treasure was very difficult. Even a real essence soul realm mighty figure might not be able to refine a magic treasure with a magic treasure embryo. Lin Feng had actually used an opportunistic method to refine the flame dragon sky armor. The vermilion flame demon eye was the eye of the primordial sky dragon. Lin Feng had taken the dragon tendon rope and the refinement technique black scale, which were also materials from the primordial sky dragon. He then used the mysterious sky treasure tree's branches and leaves as a medium to combine these materials together to form the flame dragon sky armor. If Lin Feng wanted to, he could disassemble all these materials and restore them to their original state. Therefore, strictly speaking, the flame dragon sky armor could not be considered a magic treasure. It was only a set of combined magic treasures with power comparable to magic treasures. It was a pseudo-magic treasure. The life-sealing stone was different. Even if Lin Feng wanted to do the same, he did not have other materials that matched the life-sealing stone. "I'll put it aside first." Lin Feng smacked his lips and put away the life-sealing stone. He looked back and saw Zhuge Fengling moving to the little guy's side with a fawning smile. "Senior brother, can you return little gold to me first?" The little guy rolled his eyes. "First, don't call me senior brother. I'm not your senior brother. Second, this little mouse of yours is quite fun. Let me play with it for a few days. I'll return it when I'm done." Zhuge Fengling gritted her teeth. The term senior brother could be used between disciples of different sections. It was a form of respect here. However, she had to lower her head when she was under someone else's roof. She forced a smile and said, "This Dao brother, Little Gold and I have a blood contract. Our minds are connected." The little guy interrupted her. "I know. One party has to die to dissolve the blood contract. I'm not planning to eat it. What are you afraid of?" He looked at the mouse. "Although I don't know how it tastes, it's too small. Even if I skin it and remove its organs, it'll only have 2 or 3 grams of meat." After being stared at by the little guy's extremely professional gaze, that little gold-digging mouse couldn't help but shrink its ears. It laughed awkwardly and said, Yeah, it's not even enough to fill the gaps between your teeth. Also, it's not delicious at all." The little guy grabbed the mouse's tail and lifted it into the air. He smiled and said, "But this little guy is good at finding things. Let me play with it for a few days." Zhuge Fengling forced a smile, but her smile was uglier than crying. The mouse suddenly sent a telepathic message to her. "Fengling, let's stay." Zhuge Fengling was furious. "You brat, you were bribed by those pieces of meat, weren't you?" No, how is that possible?" The gold-digging rat's voice sounded a little guilty. Over the past dozen or so days after the initial fear, it had indeed followed little Budian and Tunton to eat and drink well, and enjoyed the blessings of food. The mouse hurriedly said, "Rumor has it that the master of the mysterious gate is extremely protective, and he's always very generous to his disciples. Look at his golden elixir period disciples. All of them have yuanying magic tools to protect themselves. Foundation establishment disciples all have golden elixir period magic tools. His eldest disciple made a bet with someone, and he'll personally escort him to the Celeritas sword sect to support him." Hearing the mouse's words, Zhuge Fengling fell into silence. The mouse knew that she was moved and hurriedly struck while the iron was hot. Think about it. If you can also enter this Xianmen Tianzong, the benefits are huge. Just go and be happy. Plus, with such a backer, if someone offends him and gets taught a lesson, Wouldn't you be able to take advantage of them? Isn't that what you want? Hearing up to here, Zhuge Fengling's eyes lit up. The mouse saw that her eyes were shining and knew what she was thinking. Not only did it feel a bit of a headache, it hurriedly changed the topic and poured cold water on her already overheated brain. However, you have to first understand your position. Right now we're just followers. Whether or not he'll accept you as a disciple is still unknown, it warned. Plus, you can't actively cause trouble for him, or else you'll suffer. Zhuge Fengling smiled. Don't worry. Just like you said, you just have to follow him. When the time comes, there'll definitely be benefits. As long as there's good stuff to take, so what if I'm a follower? The mouse laughed bitterly. Being a follower isn't even the sect master's follower. It's the sect master's disciple's follower. Zhuge Fengling had already adjusted her mentality. Don't worry, so what if I'm his disciple's follower? The key is that there are benefits. Plus, being a follower is also a way to level up. She snorted. Just like you, aren't you at the same level as me now? The mouse smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything. Lin Feng saw that Zhuge Fengling had suddenly quietened down, and was amazed. However, he didn't mind. With Xiao Budian watching her, she wouldn't be able to cause any big waves. His attention now fell on Yu Hongyan. Although you have Tianhao's help, Hongyan, what did you use to subdue the infernal aura? Chapter 269. After finishing the lottery, Lin Feng immediately turned his attention back to some things that he had neglected before. At first, when he heard that Yu Hongyan got the infinite aura fiend, he didn't care too much. After all, this girl's luck had reached 7 points, which was not low. But when he thought about it carefully, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. Even with Xiao Budian's help, it was not easy for Yu Hongyan, who was in the foundation establishment stage, to collect the infinite aura fiend. It was unrealistic for her to refine the infinite aura fiend in such a short period of time. Then the problem in front of him was, how could she bring the infinite aura fiend back? Listening to what they said, the infinite aura fiend was not stored in Xiao Budian's bronze void cauldron, but in Yu Hongyan's collection. In the past, in the Kunlun Mountains, Gao Fan, a disciple of the Wind God sect, wanted to collect the lunar true water. She had to use the evil path's secret technique, the common people's great furnace technique. As a result, there was a slight accident, and she failed on the verge of success, and even had her anus burst by the lunar true water. Later, Yangqing was able to control and contain the lunar true water. In fact, he had to thank Gao Fan for laying the groundwork for him before, and had already refined the true water once. Even though Yu Hongyan's strength is stronger than Gao Fan's, but the infernal aura fiend is also more violent than the gentle lunar true water. Lin Feng is really curious what she uses to contain the infernal aura fiend. When Yu Hongyan heard Lin Feng ask her, she was silent for a moment, took out a dark red bracelet, and handed it to Lin Feng. Lin Feng took the bracelet, scanned it with his divine sense, and immediately discovered the mystery. Inside the bracelet, there was a large amount of infinite aura fiend. The dark red storm was like fog, like wind, but not like fog. It flashed with a dark red light. In the red light, thousands of ghosts roared and demons danced, like an endless hell. Lin Feng pinched the bracelet, and found that this bracelet was not a magic tool or magic weapon. There was no magic power restriction left by a cultivator, and there was no special spiritual energy fluctuation. The fact that it could contain and imprison the infinite astral baleful qi was entirely due to the special effect of the material of the bracelet itself. The little guy interrupted from the side. Fourth senior sister's bracelet was originally pure white, sparkling and translucent. After sealing in the infernal qi, it became dark red. Upon hearing these words, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat as he recalled that he had seen a type of spirit stone in the exchange system. It was called the Space Spirit Jade. The special thing about Space Spirit Jades was that they were completely empty on the inside. They were so large that they could contain anything in the world. Anything that was contained in them couldn't come out on their own. In other words, if the Space Spirit Jade was attacked from the outside, it would be very easy to shatter it. For example, Yu Hongyan couldn't use this ethereal jade bracelet to collect the infinite astral baleful qi. Doing so would only result in the destruction of the ethereal jade bracelet. However, if the infinite astral baleful qi was suppressed by Tiny Tot, Yu Hongyan could seize the opportunity to store the infinite astral baleful qi into the ethereal jade bracelet and seal it. Unlike the Tao Tai's devouring divine power, the space spirit jade could only store things passively. However, even if the infinite astral baleful qi recovered its vitality, it still couldn't rush out of the space spirit jade bracelet. Of course, the space spirit jade also had its limit. If the limit was exceeded, it could still be broken from the inside. In addition, the space spirit jade couldn't store living things. From a certain point of view, the space spirit jade was the most suitable material for making storage bags. It had a large storage space and was very stable. However, the space spirit jade was extremely rare. So rare that it was almost extinct. A piece of space spirit jade the size of a fingernail was already very rare. A bracelet as big as the one on Yu Hongyan's hand, which was entirely carved out of the space spirit jade, was extremely valuable. Lin Feng noticed that while holding the space spirit jade bracelet, Yu Hongyan's emotions weren't very high. The gaze in her pair of red eyes was extremely complicated. Within anger and hatred, there was also a bit of blankness. This kind of emotion obviously couldn't be directed at her brother who passed away. Lin Feng sighed. From the looks of it, this space spirit jade bracelet was very likely something that Zhonglai gave her. No matter how much hatred she had, no matter how much anger she had, in the deepest part of her heart, there was still a place for that person. Perhaps, it was because of the deep love in the past that after Zhonglai sacrificed the people of the Society of the Strong Gale, Yu Hongyan would be so angry and hate him so deeply. Lin Feng said lightly. The material of this bracelet is special. It was carved out of a spirit stone called space spirit jade. It can store anything. It can be considered a pretty good treasure. Hongyan, you just need to make good use of it. Yu Hongyan came to her senses. Lin Feng was telling her that objects themselves don't have a mind of their own. There was no need to transfer the emotions that were directed at people onto the object. She pursed her lips and nodded, not saying anything. With one look, Lin Feng knew that she still hadn't gotten over it in her heart, but he didn't intend to force her on this matter. He only carefully guided Yu Hongyan on how to refine the infinite baleful qi for her own use. Yu Hongyan listened attentively, her emotions gradually calming down. Afterwards, everyone dispersed. Zhuge Fengling left with Xiao Budian and Tunten, and Jieyu also returned to his cave dwelling on the mountain to rest. Although he was Lin Feng's mount, he still had the benefits that he deserved. Yu Hongyan put away the space spirit jade bracelet that sealed the infinite baleful qi, and walked towards the direction of the Medicine Valley alone. Even though Lin Feng's body stayed where it was and did not move, but his consciousness followed her to the Medicinal Valley. After Yu Hongyan entered the valley, she stopped at the entrance of the valley and did not continue forward, staring blankly at Yang Qing, who was concentrating on cultivating medicinal herbs in the Medicinal Valley. As she gazed at Yang Qing, Yu Hongyan's scarlet eyebrows became much gentler, and a faint look of guilt and shame appeared in her eyes. Lin Feng silently watched this scene and transmitted to Yu Hongyan. Don't mention this to Yang Qing before the matter is settled. You don't need to carry too much psychological burden. Although Lin Feng estimated that the destruction of the Cloud Water Cave was at least 70% related to Zhonglai, Lin Feng decided to handle this matter carefully before completely proving it. This would be beneficial to both Yang Qing and Yu Hongyan. Yu Hongyan took a deep breath and nodded silently. Although there was no movement, Yang Qing still noticed Yu Hongyan's arrival at this time. She stood up and smiled warmly. Fourth senior sister, have you returned to the mountain? At this moment, Yu Hongyan's emotions had completely calmed down, and she said, we just arrived not long ago. Master said that you went to look for the infinite baleful qi. Did you find anything? Yang Qing asked curiously. Yu Hongyan smiled slightly. Tianhao gave way to me, and in the end, I was the one who collected a part of the infinite baleful qi. Yang Qing smiled and said, that's good. After all, you returned with a full load. In the face of his gentle smile, Yu Hongyan turned his head slightly unnaturally to the other side, and his gaze suddenly fell on the ground beside Yang Qing's feet. There were two grasshoppers that were hand-folded by two people. The craftsmanship was exquisite, and it looked very lifelike. You have this kind of hobby? Yu Hongyan looked at Yangqing curiously and amusedly. Yangqing's face was a little red, and she smiled and said, I folded them for fun. Seeing that she was a little embarrassed, Yu Hongyan smiled and shook his head, and did not ask further. On the contrary, Yangqing squatted down and picked up the 2 grasshoppers. She looked at them in a daze, and after a long time she suddenly said, My junior sister likes it very much. I folded these things for her. Oh, that's right, it was when I was apprenticed under the cloud water cave. Yangqing simply sat cross-legged on the ground, and her eyes looked in the direction of the cloud water cave. She said in a daze, At that time, because I was not good at fighting, many people laughed at me. Only she would not laugh at me. Instead, she would argue with others because of me. She would patiently guide me in my practice of magic. When I was not practicing, I would weave all kinds of things with grass and leaves for her. I would weave them there, and she would watch from the side. We did not speak, but I just felt very comfortable and very peaceful. Yu Hongyan looked at Yangqing, who was immersed in memories and had a warm smile at the corner of her mouth. Affected by her emotions, she also remembered the beautiful past of the past. But soon her mood fell. She looked at Yangqing, and her eyes were filled with shame again. She also. Yu Hongyan said with difficulty. He did not know what to say. Yangqing shook her head, and her eyes were blank. I don't know. The Cloudwater Cave was burned to a white ground. When I collected the corpses of my fellow disciples, many of them had been burned to ashes, and the number of corpses was also a little less. It's funny to say that I had to set up a monument for everyone, but many of them were empty graves. If they were still alive, they would probably come and beat me up, right? But I really hope that I can get beaten up a few more times. Yangqing said softly. I only didn't set up a monument for her. Whether it's comforting in my heart or deceiving myself, I just hope that nothing happens to her. Lin Feng's divine sense had been paying attention to this side. When he heard this, his heart suddenly moved slightly, and he vaguely captured a trace of inspiration. He carefully stared at Yangqing for a moment, and a surprised expression appeared on his face. Sure enough, I was wondering why I always felt that he was strange before. So it was not my illusion. But if that's the case, how did he build his beer platform back then? Lin Feng's will had already reached a perfect balance with Mount Yujing, the mysterious heaven treasure tree, and the cyclic purple qi that spread all around the mountain. Without batting an eyelid, he used his own magic power to explore Yangqing's body again. After a while, Lin Feng came to a realization. So that's where his 9-point root bone is reflected. He really hit it well, but it's really heaven-defying. When he thought of this, Lin Feng remembered that Yangqing only had a 5-point will, and this made him feel a toothache. I have to plan well. I can't let this go to waste. As Lin Feng was thinking, a voice transmission crystal on him suddenly reacted, indicating that someone was trying to contact him. Lin Feng activated the voice transmission crystal, and the voice of Heavenly Trade Pavilion's manager, Song Fu, came from it. Sect Leader Lin, Song Fu has disturbed you. It's fine, what's the matter? Lin Feng asked. Song Fu replied respectfully. The Great Qin Dynasty has sent someone to Sand Continent City to act as a guide to guide Sect Leader Lin and your disciples to the entrance of the ancient Desolate Sea world to participate in the Desolate Sea Assembly. They are unable to find Sect Leader Lin, so they asked Pavilion Leader Lin to contact you on their behalf. Please forgive us for being presumptuous. Chapter 270. The Desolate Sea Assembly? Lin Feng lightly raised his head. It had already been more than 20 days since he received this news from Taningjia on Cloud Traversing Peak. He remembered that at that time Taningjia said that the ancient Desolate Sea world would open in about a month's time. Counting the days, it was indeed about to open. This Desolate Sea Assembly was a great opportunity to raise the reputation of the sect's disciples. Lin Feng had to grasp it well. Thinking of this, Lin Feng nodded. Thank you, Mr. Song. As he spoke, Lin Feng waved his sleeve. A purple aura passed through the endless void and quickly arrived outside the Sand Continent City. It formed a path and hung in the sky. A crack appeared in the space, and Song Fu stepped out. He bowed towards the path formed by the purple aura. Sorry for disturbing Sect Master Lin. A middle-aged man stood beside him. He used his magic power to lift him into the air. He also bowed towards the path formed by the purple aura. Then he followed behind Song Fu. The two of them stepped onto the path formed by the purple aura. There was no need for them to move forward. The purple aura swept them through the void and brought them to Jade Capital Mountain. The moment the middle-aged man appeared, Lin Feng's eyes narrowed. It's him. Speaking of which, they had met once before. However, that was a long time ago. It was when Lin Feng had yet to reach Foundation establishment. He had gone to the Great Swamp of the Ancient Region to complete a side mission. There, Lin Feng met Kong Nanhua and Yu Hongyan for the first time. At the same time, he also met the middle-aged man in front of him. He was the former lieutenant of the Xinwu military, Dao Jiqiang. In the Great Swamp of the Ancient Region, Lin Feng used the Yin-Yang Life and Death formation and buried an entire battalion of Xinwu military cultivators from the Great Zhou dynasty. Dao Jiqiang survived because he had left the main force. Afterward, he left the Xinwu military and disappeared. Unexpectedly, he had joined the Great Qin dynasty. When Dao Jiqiang saw Lin Feng, his mind was filled with thoughts. I never expected that the young Taoist I met back then would be such an important person. But this time, Dao Jiqiang felt that Lin Feng had changed a lot compared to 2 years ago. Not only had he changed from a white robe to a purple robe, but his temperament had also changed. But Dao Jiqiang couldn't tell what the changes were. He could only laugh at himself in his heart. This kind of divine power is really not something I can comprehend. His mind was filled with countless thoughts. He bowed respectfully in front of Lin Feng. Junior Dao Jiqiang greets the master of Xianmen Gate. Lin Feng looked at him and faintly smiled. Where are you currently working? Dao Jiqiang replied respectfully. This junior is currently working in Prime Minister Wu's residence. Oh. Lin Feng sized up Dao Jiqiang a couple of times, thinking, looks like he's doing pretty well in the Qin dynasty. Even though his cultivation is still at the Foundation establishment stage, his ability to do things seems to have gained Wu Qingrou's trust. The person who sent the invitation to the Celeritas sword sect, Taningjia, is a Yuanying stage cultivator. Even though he doesn't know what level of cultivation the person in charge of receiving the Celeritas sword sect is at, but presumably it won't be too low. Under these kind of circumstances, Wu Qingrou sending a Foundation establishment stage cultivator to be Xianmen Tianzong's guide. If there was no special reason, then it would clearly contain the intention of belittling and looking down on him. But looking at Wu Qingrou's way of doing things, she isn't such a petty person. She wouldn't use such crude and unpresentable methods. Looking at it like this, then there is only one explanation. Dao Jiqiang is doing very well under Wu Qingrou's hands, and is highly regarded by Wu Qingrou. She doesn't look down on him because his cultivation is slightly low and instead entrusted him with heavy responsibilities. High cultivation talent. High cultivation in the Dao only represents that the person is strong. It can't explain the specific ability to do things. There are a lot of things that can't be done well with just strength. The more trivial the matter, the more this is so. Lin Feng nodded his head. You are my Xianmen Tianzong's guide? Dao Jiqiang respectfully replied. This time around the Wasteland Sea Spell Assembly, Junior will be in charge of your sect's reception work. If there is anything in your sect you can instruct me. Song Fu smiled on the side saying, Sect Leader Lin, my mission has already been accomplished, so I'll take my leave now. Sorry for the inconvenience. Lin Feng slightly nodded his head. Thank you, Mr. Song. Dao Jiqiang on the side also said, Thank you, Mr. Song before. Song Fu chuckled saying, You're welcome. Out of politeness, his body didn't move and he didn't break open space and leave. Lin Feng pointed with his finger and the purple chi flashed again, sending Song Fu out. At this time he turned around to look at Dao Jiqiang and asked, Other than my Xianmen Tianzong, which other sects have been invited to participate in the Wasteland Sea Spell Assembly? Dao Jiqiang was silent for a moment before saying, This junior isn't too sure. Coming to receive sect leader Lin's group was also under Minister Wu's orders. I don't understand the other situations. Lin Feng indifferently swept his gaze over him. You're an old friend that I've met once. Why do you need to lie to me? Dao Jiqiang bitterly smiled in his heart. With Lin Feng's current status and the strength he displayed, he called Dao Jiqiang an old friend. There are a lot of things that Dao Jiqiang can't beat around the bush anymore, otherwise it would be ungrateful. Celeritas Sword Sect, Sun Moon Sword Sect, Northern Militant Imperial Court, and Hua family have all received invitations. Dao Jiqiang sighed. There should be others, but Junior really isn't sure. I only know that there are more than 4. Lin Feng nodded his head. His expression didn't change, but his thoughts spun rapidly in his mind. He already knew about Celeritas Sword Sect, so he could put this aside for now. Sun Moon Sword Sect, along with Celeritas Sword Sect, were the few sword sects in the present age. They were also members of the Nine Heaven Sword Alliance, but they had always been closer to the Great Qin dynasty. Generally speaking, they were considered to be the spokesperson of the Great Qin dynasty in the Nine Heaven Sword Alliance. Most of the Nine Heaven Sword Alliance members' sects were located within the borders of the Great Qin dynasty, so the Nine Heaven Sword Alliance as a whole adopted a tacit attitude towards this. Sun Moon Sword Sect accepting the invitation was within expectations. The Great Qin dynasty could forget anyone, but they wouldn't forget their own underlings. Northern Militant Royal Court, this is a bit interesting, Lin Feng said in his heart. Did the Great Zhou dynasty do something that made the Great Qin feel uneasy? The Northern Militant Royal Court was a large dynasty power north of the Great Zhou and Great Qin dynasties. It was bordered by the Zhou and Qin dynasties at the same time. Although its strength was a bit weaker than the two dynasties, it was still a power that couldn't be underestimated in the Divine Land. The Northern Militant Royal Court strength was roughly equal to the Heavenly Sword Sect, and was even stronger than the Celeritas Sword Sect, the Wind God Sect, and the Yu family. The Great Qin inviting the Northern Militant Royal Court to participate in the Desolate Sea Assembly was undoubtedly a sign of goodwill. In the conflict between Zhou and Qin, the Northern Militant Royal Court had always been one of the main points of the game. As for the Hua family, it was one of the 4 great families of the Great Qin dynasty. It resided in the southern border of the Great Qin dynasty, and was a deep-rooted colossus. But the Hua family's participation made Lin Feng more interested than the Northern Militant Royal Court's invitation. This was because among the 4 great families, the Hua family was the closest to the Great Qin dynasty's royal family, and had the closest relationship. It was also the sworn enemy of the Yu family, which was also one of the 4 great families. Even the Shi family, which was related to the Yu family by marriage, was not on good terms. Both being the Great Qin dynasty's underlings, the nature of the Hua family was completely different from the Sun Moon Sword Sect. Compared to the Nine Heaven Sword Alliance, the conflict between the Great Qin dynasty and the 4 great families was much more intense. From the scene on the cloud-traversing peak, the conflict between Wu Qingru and Shi Chongyan was almost public. He should be biased towards the rich and powerful families. Lin Feng pondered. But looking at Wu Qingru's invitation list, the rich and powerful families didn't get any advantage. Going back on his word, being hesitant, such a stupid action, it really doesn't seem like his style. Lin Feng suddenly asked Dao Jiqiang. Apart from the Hua family, did the other 3 families receive an invitation? After a moment of silence, Dao Jiqiang replied. Junior doesn't dare to be certain, but as far as I know they didn't. Lin Feng nodded and didn't say anything. He thought. There are 3 possibilities. First, the Qin Emperor is pressuring Wu Qingru. After all, the true master of the Great Qin dynasty is still the Qin Emperor. Second, Wu Qingru is compensating the other 3 families in other places. Third, Lin Feng's pupils slightly contracted. I really don't hope it's the third possibility. Lin Feng thought for a moment, and made up his mind. He then said to Dao Jiqiang, when is the Wasteland Sea Assembly going to be held? Dao Jiqiang respectfully replied, in 7 days. Lin Feng nodded slightly. You can stay on my Yujing mountain first. When the time comes, I will bring my disciples with me and set off with you. After settling Dao Jiqiang down, Lin Feng wasn't worried that he would cause trouble or act as a spy. On Yujing mountain, all of his movements were in Lin Feng's eyes. However, Lin Feng had to think about who to bring to the Wasteland Sea Assembly. The others were easy to decide, but the key was whether to bring Zhu Yi. This made Lin Feng hesitate. This was mainly because Zhu Yi had the heavy responsibility of teaching the new disciples. Apart from him, no one else was particularly suitable for this job. Being able to cultivate and being able to teach others to cultivate were two completely different concepts. To enter the ancient Wasteland Sea Assembly, I still need Zhu Yi to go. On one hand, it's because of his great luck. On the other hand, Xiaoyan isn't here. If Zhu Yi doesn't go, there's only one golden elixir period disciple left. Although he's strong, he's still too weak. Lin Feng had already inquired about how the Wasteland Sea Assembly's slots were decided through fights. Any disciple under the Yuanying stage could participate. However, for the sake of fairness, the competition between Golden Elixir period disciples and Foundation Establishment disciples was held separately. As for Qi refinement cultivators, there was no need. Even if they went in, they would need someone to take care of them, so there was no point. After finding Zhu Yi and explaining the whole story, Zhu Yi thought for a while and said, "Disciple is also interested in going to the ancient Wasteland Sea Assembly. As for the new disciples, Master doesn't have to worry. I will leave some homework for them to comprehend on their own." With Mr. Kong and Mr. Miao watching, even if there's something they don't understand, they won't go astray. Yuanying cultivators could not enter the ancient Wasteland Sea Assembly. Since Lin Feng was personally leading the team, Kong Nanhua and Miao Shihao would naturally stay on the mountain. Ever since Lin Feng returned to the mountain, he had not seen Miao Shihao. Although no one mentioned it, Lin Feng could naturally sense that Miao Shihao was in closed-door training. Speaking of Shihao, I wonder how his closed-door training is going? As Lin Feng was thinking, his heart suddenly stirred. He looked at the mysterious sky treasure tree above his head. Chapter 271. Kong Nanhua and Miao Shihao had both participated in the opening ceremony of the Sand Continent and made contributions to the sect. Hence, Lin Feng allowed them to enter the mysterious Sky Timeless Light Cave once. Miao Shihao had used this opportunity to enter the mysterious Sky Timeless Light Cave for seclusion not long ago. Lin Feng knew that he wanted to use this opportunity to break through the bottleneck and advance to the middle stage of Yuanying in one fell swoop. After obtaining Lin Feng's heavenly true water, Miao Shihao had not only perfected the Surging Waves Water Dharma art, but also made a breakthrough in his own Dao technique, the Ethereal Illusion technique. After the battle in the Sand Continent, Miao Shihao had successfully stood on the doorstep of the middle stage of Yuanying. Sure enough, Miao Shihao had successfully broken through during this seclusion. A stream of 9 heavens clear qi passed through the endless void and directly entered the mysterious Sky Timeless Light Cave. There, Miao Shihao sat quietly on a branch of the little mysterious sky treasure tree. The gate of heaven on top of his head was open and endless clear qi entered his body. Lin Feng could clearly see a figure of light appear above Miao Shihao's head. That was a handsome boy. He looked to be only 3 or 4 years old, but under the nourishment of the clear air, he was rapidly growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a short period of time, the boy had already grown to the age of 7 or 8, and his facial features were becoming more and more similar to the current Miao Shihao. Lin Feng's pupils shrank slightly. He was surprised to see that there was a pattern of a full moon on the boy's forehead, emitting a faint golden glow. As Miao Shihao's Yuanying continued to grow, the pattern of the full moon was also constantly changing, from a full moon to a crescent moon, and then from a crescent moon to a crescent moon. In the end, it almost disappeared, but the next moment, it reappeared, and gradually became a full moon. The waxing and waning of the moon kept repeating. Lin Feng frowned slightly and thought to himself, the ethereal illusion technique is only a cultivation technique. Is this changing full moon the foundation of Miao Shihao? At this time, Miao Shihao finally stopped. Yuanying slowly descended into the crown of his head. He opened his eyes and let out a clear cry that sounded like a phoenix's cry. When he came out of the mysterious Heaven-Time cave, he saw Lin Feng and Zhu Yi looking up at him under the tree. He couldn't help but cover his mouth and giggle. "Oh, Sect Master, you're back? I'm really happy and scared to make you wait here for me to come out of seclusion." My little heart is beating so fast. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth twitched twice. Fortunately, the heaven and earth shattering spell did not directly hit his head. I don't have the time to specifically wait for you. After talking about the Wasteland Sea Assembly, Miao Shihao finally became more serious. He nodded and said, with me and Nanhua watching over them, there's no need to worry about the new disciples. You can take Xiaoyi away. After thinking for a moment, his expression became a bit more serious as he slowly said, Sect Master, you should pay more attention to Wu Qingru. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Oh, you seem to be implying something. Miao Shihao curled his lips. I've seen this name in the internal information exchanges of Taishu Temple. However, the information is incomplete, so it's not easy to determine his true relationship with Taishu Temple. In the end, is it because he has some connection with the Void Temple, or is it because the Void Temple views him as a target worthy of attention? I can't say for sure either. But the two parties who exchange information are of very high level, and one of them is Pang Jia. Lin Feng made a sound of acknowledgement. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly asked, Shihao, you have the ability to grasp information about the disciples of Taishu Temple that have entered the world. How much do you know about the internal affairs of White Cloud Mountain, the main gate of Taishu Temple? Miao Shihao shook his head regretfully. That broken place can be said to be the most mysterious place in the Divine Land. Brother Shihao, I can't do anything about it. To be honest, other than the group of boorish people in Taishu Temple, the last time outsiders entered White Cloud Mountain was almost 1,000 years ago. Lin Feng nodded without saying a word. Miao Shihao asked curiously, Sect Master, why are you suddenly asking about this? Yan Mingyue is going back to White Cloud Mountain. I think there will be a lot of excitement in Taishu Temple. Lin Feng didn't hide it from him and explained the reason directly. I'm very interested in the details of the internal conflict between the conservative and radical factions of Taishu Temple. Miao Shihao heard this news and immediately laughed gloatingly. Let them fight each other. His expression suddenly changed. He glanced at Lin Feng and said in an unfriendly tone, Sect Master, don't tell me you've fallen for that girl, Yan Mingyue? Lin Feng rolled his eyes, too lazy to bother with him. Lin Feng had already summed up his experience in talking to this guy who was a little off the rails. The length of the conversation had to be controlled within 3 minutes. If it was less than 3 minutes, this guy could still maintain a certain degree of seriousness and have a pleasant conversation. After 3 minutes, he would completely enter a funny mode. Under such circumstances, it was better to just ignore him. Ignoring Miao Shihao, who was being paranoid, Lin Feng flew up and entered Black Heaven's Time Light Grotto Heaven. There Yu Hongyan was quietly meditating and cultivating. Lin Feng scanned with his mana and knew that Yu Hongyan's refining of the Inferno Baleful Qi is already on the right track. Not only that, she even broke through her Dao technique bottleneck because of this and is also attempting to break through realms, condensing a pill cauldron and achieving foundation establishment late-stage cultivation. When she first came to Yujing Mountain, Yu Hongyan had already built her spirit platform and cultivated to the middle stage of foundation establishment. Now that she had comprehended the 8 trigrams of the Great Way of Heaven and Earth that Lin Feng had taught her, her understanding and knowledge of the Great Way of Heaven and Earth had improved greatly. The battle with Wang Jiannan on Cloud Traversing Peak had consolidated her progress in Dao and broken through the bottleneck in her state of mind. She was ready to condense her pill cauldron. After collecting the infinite baleful qi and successfully refining it, even the reserve of magic power had been completely completed. It was extremely abundant. Under such circumstances, it was completely natural for Yu Hongyan to condense her pill cauldron. Lin Feng was only guarding her in case something happened. Lin Feng's divine sense and mana probed into Yu Hongyan's sea of energy. He saw that there stood a black 9-story spiritual platform shining with purple light, the top of which was burning with raging flames. At the top of this first-grade spirit platform, within the flames, there were countless red lights that looked like wind and fog that kept swaying, making the sound of the wind. Within the red lights, there were countless ghosts wailing. These ghosts fell into the blazing fire at the top of Yu Hongyan's spirit platform. Not only did they not feel pain, but they also smiled as if they had been freed. Some of them looked peaceful, some were smiling, and some even had tears streaming down their faces. They were extremely excited. When these ghosts merged into the blazing fire, the fire became even more ferocious. Seeing this, Lin Feng nodded to himself. Yu Hongyan's magic power had already completely refined and controlled this part of the infinite baleful qi. The power of the infinite baleful qi did not decrease, but the countless ghosts imprisoned within it were freed because of this. They no longer had to suffer in the infinite hell. The moment before they were released from purgatory, they fed the spirit qi that they had accumulated over the years back to Yan Mingyue, causing Yu Hongyan's magic power to become even stronger. At the top of the black spirit platform, the scarlet flames wrapped in rolling red light gradually condensed into the image of a pill cauldron in the air. The flames and the red wind poured into the image of the pill cauldron, causing the image of the pill cauldron to become clearer and clearer. In the end, it completely materialized and settled on top of Yu Hongyan's spirit platform. Within the pill cauldron, the infinite baleful qi kept spurting out. At the bottom of the pill cauldron, there was still an endless blazing fire burning. Countless inscriptions were carved on the body of the pill cauldron, but they were the endless principles of the universe. Yu Hongyan's closed eyes suddenly opened. In her scarlet pupils, there were two dancing flames. With a single thought, a wave of infinite baleful qi immediately came out of her body and circulated around her. At this moment, Yu Hongyan had officially reached the late stage of foundation building. She only needed to advance one more step, and she would be able to form the golden elixir. When she saw Lin Feng, a rare smile blossomed on her face. She called out, "Master." Lin Feng looked at her and nodded in relief. "Not bad. You've done well." After bringing Yu Hongyan out of the mysterious heaven-time light grotto heaven, Lin Feng summoned all the disciples to sit down and listen to his orders. Zhu Yi had already settled the new second-generation disciples. Kong Nanhua and Miao Shihao were left on the mountain. Lin Feng brought Xiao Budian, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, and Tunten. Together with Zhuge Fengling and Dao Jiqiang, the group left Yujing Mountain and headed for the northern border of the Great Qin Dynasty, where the entrance to the ancient desolate sea world was. This time, apart from Jieyu, Lin Feng also brought the Kuei Ox King along as a mount. The two demon kings carried Lin Feng and his disciples eastward, causing a huge commotion once again. It's said that keeping a low profile and doing things in a high profile is the way to go. Lin Feng thought to himself. I'm already unscrupulous in order to increase my reputation points. Soon, the group arrived at the northern border of the Great Qin Dynasty Yu Prefecture. 1,000 miles north, there was a place called the North Wind Sea. Although it was called a sea, it was actually a large lake. That was where the entrance to the ancient desolate sea world was. As they neared Yu Prefecture, Lin Feng's heart stirred slightly. He looked in the direction of Yu Prefecture City. Although the other party did not deliberately release their auras, the terrifying magic power undulations were undoubtedly that of a primordial soul expert. The other party also sensed the presence of Lin Feng's group. A figure flew above Yu Prefecture and said with a smile, "I wonder which clan has arrived?" The newcomer was an old man with white hair and beard at the Yuanying stage. He smiled as he watched Xianmen Tianzong and the others on Jieyu's and Kuei Ox King's backs approach. Although this old man was old, his smile was unbridled. His aura was like an unsheathed steel blade, filled with killing intent and the stench of blood, as if he wanted to kill all living beings in front of him. He was also stepping on a black saber light, which kept twisting in the air like a black bolt of lightning. It was overflowing with ferocious might and oppressive hostility. When Lin Feng saw this, he already had an idea in his heart. According to the rumors, the Hua clan's core Taoist law, the Azura tactics, is one of the few Taoist laws in the world that focuses on killing. The murderous nature of the Hua clan is heavy, not any weaker than General Xie of the Divine Martial Army that I met in the Great Swamp of the ancient region. The Hua clan's top martial arts technique, the Azura World Annihilation Blade, and General Xie's heaven-defying Absolute Sword, one blade and one sword, are the two most murderous techniques in the Divine Land. The Hua clan's Yuanying ancestors' gaze lingered on Jieyu and Kuei Ox King for a second. Then he looked at Jieyu and said with a smile, "Are you Xianmen Tianzong's fellow Taoist?" Chapter 272. Among the Great Qin's four big families, the Hu family cultivated the Azura tactics, which focused on killing and killing. Their killing intent was extremely heavy, and their top martial art, the Azura World Annihilation Blade, and the ancient killing god Gates heaven-defying absolute sword, one blade and one sword, were known as the two martial arts with the heaviest killing intent. General Xia, whom Lin Feng met in the Great Swamp of the ancient godly slaying sect, had obtained the inheritance of the extinct ancient godly slaying sect. However, General Xia was only in the Golden Elixir period, which was completely different from the Yuanying stage patriarch of the Hu clan. Facing Jieyu and Kuei Niu King, the two great demon kings, his eyes flashed with a demonic brilliance. He seemed to be itching to fight, and his killing intent almost condensed into a solid substance. Jieyu and Kuei Niu King growled at the same time, revealing their anger. Everyone in the Hu clan cultivated the Tao of slaughter. If they did not restrain themselves, they would definitely cause great suffering, and eventually be attacked by everyone in the world. That was how the ancient godly slaying sect was destroyed. The Hu clan patriarch learned from the experience, and led the entire clan to guard the southern border of the Great Qin dynasty. There were many spatial cracks between the human race's divine land and the demon race's vast Tianhuang continent. It was all slaughter, it was all blood. The Hu clan aimed their blades at the demon race, using this to increase their own Dao techniques and sharpen their own martial Dao blades. The Great Qin dynasty was also happy to have the Hu clan as a fence to guard the southern border. When the demon race had the intention to attack the Hu clan, the Qin dynasty would also decisively support the Hu clan. Over the past 1,000 years, the Hu clan had killed thousands of demon race, but they did not kill many. Thus, they left a good reputation among the local people. Looking at Jieyu and Kuei Niu King, the Yuanying stage patriarch of the Hu clan had a bloodthirsty impulse. However, it was only for a moment before he regained his composure. He smiled and said, "Are you Xianmen Tianzong?" Jie Feng replied in a low muffled voice, "Yes, are you a Taoist from the Hu clan?" "That's right." The old man smiled, but his smile was not friendly. "The leader of the celestial sect of wonders is really arrogant. You didn't even come to the Baron Sea assembly in person. Do you have so much confidence in your disciples?" The little guy giggled. That Hu family's ancestor looked over with ill intent, and his killing intent overflowed into the heavens. The little guy did not seem to care at all, and looked at him while giggling. This child has such a firm will." The Hu family's ancestor's eyes slightly narrowed, and then he heard the little guy laugh and say, "Open your eyes wide and look clearly. My master is right in front of you. It's just that your eyesight is bad." The patriarch of the Hu clan was shocked when he heard this. His gaze swept around again, and finally landed on the indifferent Lin Feng. It wasn't because Lin Feng's aura was shocking. On the contrary, it was because Lin Feng was the only one who didn't show any signs of magic power. The Hu family patriarch couldn't see the depth of his cultivation at all. Looking at Lin Feng's position, the others faintly regarded him as the center of attention. Naturally, he couldn't be an ordinary person without any magic power. However, as a Yuanying stage cultivator, he couldn't see the depth of his cultivation at all. At this time, the Hu family patriarch finally reacted, and a faint cold sweat appeared on his back. He awkwardly stood where he was. He didn't know if he should leave or stay. After years of cultivation, his personality was like a steel blade that pressed forward with indomitable will. He really couldn't say words of apology, but if he said a few words of courtesy and stubbornness, then he would be courting death. This Yuanying stage ancestor was frozen in place for a moment, and didn't know what to do. "Get back here, don't continue to embarrass me." At this time, a cold voice suddenly came from Yuzhou City. The voice wasn't loud, but when it fell into everyone's ears, they felt a chill in their hearts. The other party's killing intent was so heavy that it almost caused the weather to change. Lin Feng lightly said, "Are you the Azura Taoist Huxiao? I am the master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng. Greetings." With the appearance of his own primordial spirit ancestor, The Hua family's Yuanying stage ancestor finally breathed a sigh of relief. Although he knew that he would inevitably be criticized when he went back, but at least he did not have to stay here in a dilemma. He respectfully bowed to Lin Feng, and his figure landed back in Yuzhou City. In the sky, a large black crack suddenly appeared, as if it had been split by a knife. A young man who looked to be only 25 or 26 years old appeared in front of Lin Feng. He had a hawk nose and deep eyes. His black clothes were like ink, and his face was cold and expressionless. After staring at Lin Feng for a long time, he opened his mouth and said, "Sect leader Lin, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am Wuxia." He stood there like a god of death from hell, who had walked through countless mountains of corpses and seas of blood. His whole body was filled with a kind of terrifying power that could kill and destroy everything. Lin Feng looked at Wuxia silently. He knew that this person was the current leader of the Hua family. He was a big bull who had reached the nascent soul realm 1,000 years ago. He was the leader who led the Hua family to the southern border to kill the demon clan. "Azura Daoist, I've heard a lot about you," Lin Feng said lightly. Wuxia stared at him for a long time, and the killing intent around him suddenly disappeared. He nodded and said, "It's just a small reputation. It's not worth mentioning. It was my family's younger generation that offended you. I hope sect leader Lin won't take it to heart." Hearing Wuxia apologize on behalf of the Yuanying stage ancestor, Lin Feng didn't feel the slightest joy or pride. Instead, his heart trembled slightly. This Wuxia has completely surpassed the shackles of his Azura tactics. His killing intent was at his will, advancing and retreating freely. He could do whatever he wanted without the slightest hindrance. Wuxia said calmly, "My family and I will stay in the city for a few days. Sect leader Lin, please do as you please." After saying that, his body disappeared in the air without any hesitation. Lin Feng watched Wuxia's figure disappear. After a moment of silence, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Wuxia, interesting. Looks like you're about to break through your current realm." Lin Feng didn't care about the Hua family's horses that were currently stationed in Yuzhou City. He led his people and landed in Yuzhou City. As soon as he arrived in the city, Lin Feng felt waves of suppressed killing intent. Some were strong, some were weak. The strong ones were at the Yuanying stage, while the weak ones were only at the foundation establishment stage. They all had one thing in common, and that was that they were very sullen and worked very hard to suppress their killing intent. These people were like wild horses that had been put on a leash. They wanted to break free from their restraints at all times. However, the wild horses wanted to gallop to their heart's content, while these people wanted to kill and turn the entire Yuzhou city into a river of blood. These bloodthirsty people were undoubtedly cultivators of the Hua family. The only person who could suppress them from acting rashly was the Hua family's primordial soul ancestor, Wuxia. This Wuxia has some tricks up his sleeve. Lin Feng thought for a moment, and already understood Wuxia's plan. Firstly, controlling one's killing intent was also a form of training for the clan's disciples. At the end of the day, when cultivators cultivated, they cultivated and comprehended Dao techniques. They weren't controlled by Dao techniques. Secondly, this was like training an eagle. They used hunger to make the eagle more ferocious. The Hua family's disciples, whose killing intent was suppressed by Wuxia now, would definitely be able to unleash 120% of their strength when the Desolate Sea Assembly officially began. At the side, Dao Jiqiang smiled bitterly and said, "Actually, there was a special administrative order to tell the residents of Yuzhou City to live in seclusion. However, the Hua family has gained a good reputation for killing demons all these years. As a result, the local residents aren't afraid of these killing gods at all. Instead, they see them as heroes." Lin Feng smiled faintly. "That's reasonable. If disaster doesn't befall them, people will always ignore the danger." Dao Jiqiang wanted to say something more, but his expression suddenly changed slightly. Lin Feng followed his gaze, and saw a group of people walking past the street. All of them were dressed in white and had a cold aura. However, the fluctuations of their magic power were extremely powerful. Lin Feng could conclude that the Dao techniques these cultivators cultivated were definitely extraordinary. Looking at Dao Jiqiang, Lin Feng waited for the other party to give an answer. It seemed that Dao Jiqiang had recognized their origins. Those people are cultivators from the Tianqi sect. Dao Jiqiang took a deep breath and said slowly, "It seems that they have also received an invitation." Lin Feng thought to himself, "It seems that no matter who takes the initiative, there will be a big move in the near future." The Tianqi sect was located on the heavenly lake of the Snow Mountain. It was famous in the northern snowy plains of the human race's divine land. It had been established for tens of thousands of years, and was one of the few super sects in the northern part of the continent. Although it couldn't compare to the three holy lands, it was a colossus on the same level as the Heavenly Sword sect and the Northern Militant Imperial Court. Speaking of which, because they were both located in the extremely cold northern region, the relationship between the Tianqi sect and the Northern Militant Imperial Court had never been harmonious. Generally speaking, when one side roped in the Northern Militant Imperial Court as an ally, the other side would rope in the Tianqi sect to restrain the other side. This time, the Great Qin dynasty had simultaneously expressed goodwill towards the Northern Militant Imperial Court and the Tianqi sect. It was clear that they wanted to gather the power of the northern border to their side. The resources from the ancient desolate sea world was just a prelude. There would definitely be a series of cooperation and exchanges of benefits between the Great Qin dynasty and these two great powers. From this perspective, the Great Qin dynasty's next move would be very big. Either the Great Qin dynasty, which had always been weak, would take the initiative to suppress the Great Zhou dynasty, or the Great Zhou dynasty would make a big move against the Great Qin dynasty, forcing the Great Qin dynasty to use all of its strength to deal with it. But this is a good thing for me. Lin Feng gave a slight smile. The more chaotic and contentious the situation was, the more favorable it was for new powers like Xianmen Tianzong to rise up. The situation was like a stagnant pool of stagnant water and an iron plate. With all the vested interests divided, it would be much more difficult for a new power to emerge. Lin Feng and the others settled down in Yuzhou City and patiently waited for the Desolate Sea Assembly to begin. The little guy and the others scattered around Yuzhou City to play. After spending so much time on Yujing Mountain, occasionally changing environments was a new experience. Wang Lin had wanted to stay at his residence and continue cultivating, but he couldn't stand the little guy's pestering, so he came out with them. Walking on the streets and looking at the people coming and going, Wang Lin couldn't help but sigh. Before he had embarked on the path of cultivation, he had lived in a mountain village, and the most prosperous place he had been to was the small county near his hometown. During the opening ceremony in the Sand Continent, his mind had been focused on welcoming and sending off the guests, so he hadn't really walked around the Sand Continent. Now that he was walking in Yuzhou City, which was as prosperous as the Sand Continent, it was a feeling that he had never felt before. With his mental state broadened, Wang Lin felt that he had gained a different understanding of the Tao. Wang Lin? Is that Wang Lin? As they walked, Wang Lin suddenly heard someone call his name. He couldn't help but feel surprised. He turned around and saw a person looking at him. The person's face was somewhat familiar, but it was mostly unfamiliar. Chapter 273. The person who came was a gray-robed young man. The moment Wang Lin saw him, he recognized that this person was a brother of his from the same clan. Back then, he joined the Hengyu sect with him. However, due to his outstanding talent, the sect took the initiative to accept him as a disciple. Wang Lin couldn't pass the test and committed suicide, which was why the Hengyu sect reluctantly accepted him. Later, the Hengyu sect was attacked by the Xiandao sect's Yuanying ancestor, Pu Beizi. Many Hengyu sect disciples joined the Xiandao sect, including this person. After that, the two of them never saw each other again. Later, Wang Lin's life took a turn. He entered Lin Feng's tutelage and completely bid farewell to his previous life. Because he had stayed in the mysterious Heaven Time Cave for a long time, everything that happened in the past was something that happened many years ago to Wang Lin. So when Wang Lin saw this person again today, although he immediately recognized him, he felt a sense of unfamiliarity, as if it had been a lifetime. The gray-robed young man also looked at Wang Lin in shock. To him, Wang Lin was even more unfamiliar. From his perspective, The two of them had only been separated for a little more than 2 years, but Wang Lin's body had undoubtedly undergone earth-shattering changes. The skinny young man who had extremely poor talent and couldn't be accepted by the Hengyu sect no matter how hard he tried, and had to commit suicide to force the sect to accept him, was now a powerful young man. The most eye-catching thing was the vast amount of magic power that Wang Lin had, which shocked his former companion. Wang Lin, who had become a joke in the entire Hengyu sect, was now a foundation establishment cultivator, while he who was considered a genius was still at the qi condensation stage. Facing this scene, the gray-robed young man felt like he was in a dream. Although there was a sense of absurdity in his heart, Wang Lin's will was extremely stable and wasn't affected at all. He said, "Wang Zhua? Long time no see. How have you been?" The gray-clothed young man, Wang Zhua, opened his mouth, wanting to say something. However, the huge contrast between reality and his memories created a sense of absurdity that made him unable to make a sound in the end. After the opening ceremony in the Sand Continent, the names of the Xianmen Tianzong disciples under Lin Feng were basically known to the world. Wang Zhua had long heard of the name Wang Lin. He had also suspected that this Wang Lin might be that Wang Lin, his brother from the same clan. However, he had always felt that it was impossible. Who would have thought that the reality would be right in front of him, making him feel like he had been slapped in the face? He's obviously a piece of trash with no aptitude for cultivation. How did he become a foundation establishment cultivator in such a short time? Wang Zhua felt bitter in his heart. Could it be that Xianmen Tianzong is really so powerful? That the legendary Xianmen sect master actually has the ability to turn stone into gold and turn something rotten into something magical? At this time, a young man in black walked over and looked coldly at Wang Lin. He said carelessly, "Wang Zhua, is this the Wang Lin you mentioned? Is he really your brother from the same clan?" Wang Zhua said, "Yes, 17th young master. He is my brother from the same clan, Wang Lin." Wang Lin raised his head and looked at the young man in black. It was as if he was facing an unsheathed blade, sharp and full of killing intent. Hua family disciple. Wang Lin understood. The Hua family was the strongest power in the Great Qin dynasty's southern border. All the other powers in the cultivation world had to look up to them. The Xian Dao sect was no exception. No matter how strong Pu Beizi was, he had to tuck his tail between his legs in front of the Hua family. After Wang Zhua joined the Xian Dao sect, for some reason he was recognized by the Hua family, and was now an outer disciple of the Hua family. This kind of situation was common for large cultivation families like the Hua family and the Yu family. While maintaining the unity of the core bloodline, they also constantly recruited talented people into the family to serve as their outer forces. While the main branch was strong, the branches and leaves were also as lush as possible to absorb new blood and ensure the family's prosperity. Wang Lin looked at Wang Zhua and shook his head slightly. In his memory, his brother from the same clan had been full of mettle in the past, and what a proud person he had been. However, now that he was following behind the Hua clan, his pride and sharpness had all disappeared. Following the Hua family would allow him to obtain cultivation resources and legacies that were even better than the Xian Dao sect, and countless times better than the Hengyu sect. However, the price he had to pay was that he had lost all of his edge. Perhaps only Wang Zhua could clearly weigh the gains and losses. Seeing Wang Lin shake his head, Wang Zhua's eyes flashed and he lowered his head. His fists gradually clenched, but he still didn't say a word. On the other hand, Hua Chun, the young man in black whom Wang Zhua respectfully referred to as the 17th young master, raised his eyebrows and looked at Wang Lin with a cold smile. "Looking at the state of your body, I'm afraid your real age is close to middle-aged." Wang Zhua said that the two of you were separated for only 2 years. That means you've been cultivating in a grotto heaven that can accelerate time for the past 2 years. Hua Chun smiled with a somewhat disdainful expression. 10 years or even decades of cultivation, and you're only at the early stage of foundation establishment. Rumor has it that the disciples of the Xian sect's leader are all monstrous and extraordinary. Looks like that's all there is to it. In the end, rumors are just rumors. The killing intent and magic power on his entire body was released, and instantly, The space within a radius of a few tens of meters was completely enveloped by an extremely oppressive and despairing aura of slaughter and death, causing one to be unable to breathe. Ordinary people that didn't possess any cultivation in the Tao would practically die upon coming into contact with this killing intent. The release of Huachen's aura also revealed his current cultivation level. Late-stage foundation establishment, Pill Cauldron Realm. Although Wang Lin couldn't see the grade of his pill cauldron, from the purity of its magic power, it shouldn't be a low grade. Huachen's actual age was only in his early 20s. To be able to condense a pill cauldron at this age, even in the Hua clan, he would be one of the best. No wonder he was so arrogant. Wang Lin was the main target of Huachen's killing intent, but he seemed to not feel it at all. He looked at Huachen calmly. Huachen's thick eyebrows raised and the cold smile on his face became more and more serious. He was extremely experienced in combat, and could naturally see that Wang Lin wasn't faking it. Wang Lin really wasn't moved by his killing intent. But the more it was like this, the more Huachen wanted to make a move. 17th, what's going on? A cold and overbearing voice suddenly cut in. Following that, a man in black who looked similar to Huachen appeared. However, his expression was even more stern and cold. Seeing this man in black, Wang Zhuo deeply lowered his head. Huachen also restrained his sharpness and said respectfully, "Second brother." There was only one possibility that could make the bloodthirsty and combative Hua clan's younger generation calm down. That was the person who came was much stronger than him. So strong that if he dared to make a move, he would be courting death. And this man in black was an expert who could make Huachen as obedient as a little white rabbit in an instant. The Hua clan's second young master, Hua Ming. He just stood there without doing anything. His magic power and killing intent weren't revealed in the slightest, but it made the surrounding people feel despair, as if they were in a hell of slaughter. Wang Lin looked at Hua Ming and slightly frowned. Golden elixir period. Moreover, it's the late stage of golden elixir. He's only one step away from achieving Yuanying cultivation. Because of the lifespan of cultivators, there would be a big difference in the time they gave birth. Brothers of the same age might have grandchildren, while some were still single. Therefore, among brothers of the same generation, there might be a big difference in age. Including the time he spent cultivating in the Hua clan's accelerated time grotto heaven. Hua Ming was already more than 100 years old. He was much older than Huachen. However, this wasn't the reason why he was ranked second while Huachen was ranked 17th. There were also brothers of the same generation who were older than Hua Ming. In the Hua clan, the ranking of brothers of the same generation was completely determined by their strength. The stronger they were, the higher their ranking would be. Facing Hua Ming, Wang Lin felt pressured. Third junior brother, are you reuniting with an old friend? A purple-robed scholar suddenly walked slowly into the field and stood beside Wang Lin. It was Zhu Yi. Seeing Zhu Yi, Hua Ming's eyes lit up. His whole body was overflowing with killing intent, which erupted like a tide. His eruption startled the entire Yuzhou city. However, Zhu Yi, who was facing him directly, didn't seem to feel anything. He still stood there with a calm expression and smiled calmly. Someone from the Hua clan? Why, do you want to have a match here? If that's the case, I'll keep you company. His tone was calm and natural, as if he was just chatting with someone. He didn't take Hua Ming's suffocating killing intent seriously at all. Hua Ming stared at Zhu Yi and muttered a few times before saying coldly, "From Xianmen Tianzong. I was originally only interested in your eldest senior brother, Xiao Yan. Now it seems that you're also worth my time." Zhu Yi raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "Unfortunately, we're actually not that interested in you." Hua Ming wasn't angry when he heard that, but his killing intent became more violent. "Very well, even if it's the ancestor's ban, I don't care anymore. I'll kill you first and then go to the ancestor to receive my punishment." Huachen, who was next to him, sneered. "Fish look for fish, shrimp look for shrimp. Second brother has found his opponent, so I'll play with you." Wang Lin's expression didn't change. He said calmly, "As you wish." Huachen sneered. "Do you think I'm talking about you? Hey, you're not qualified. I'm talking about the one behind you." Wang Lin's expression was calm. He naturally knew that Yu Hongyan was standing behind him and had arrived with Zhu Yi. After the red-haired, Red-eyed Yu Hongyan arrived. She hadn't said a word. She maintained her respect for Zhu Yi and Wang Lin, and let them handle the situation. However, with her fiery temper, it was fine if others didn't provoke her, but if they took the initiative to come to her, she wouldn't back down at all. Her body was as unrestrained as a storm, and as blazing as a flame, and she directly pushed back Hua Chen's killing intent and mana. Hua Chen's eyes narrowed. Is she really in the late stage of foundation establishment? She's not even 20 years old, right? The two sides were facing each other, and a battle was about to break out. Suddenly, two voices came from the sky at the same time. One was the cold voice of the Hua family's essence sole patriarch, Hua Xiao. Hua Ming, Hua Chen, get back here, or all of you will die. The other voice belonged to Lin Feng. He was calm and indifferent. You'll have a chance to fight during the Desolate Sea Assembly. Since the two big shots had spoken at the same time, there was naturally no way they would fight. Hua Ming and Hua Chen exchanged glances with deep regret in their eyes. Hua Ming snorted and flew into the sky without saying a word. How many of your seniors and juniors are already in the golden elixir period? You're still in the early stage of foundation establishment. Before Hua Chen left, he turned and sneered at Wang Lin. I heard that the red-haired girl beside you joined the sect later than you did. She's already in the late stage of foundation establishment, and you're still there? All your years of cultivation must have gone to waste, right? Amidst his maniacal laughter, Hua Chen turned and left with Wang Zhua. Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan's expressions darkened at the same time. Zhu Yi was about to make Hua Chen stay. When had the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong ever been ridiculed like this? Master said that there will be plenty of opportunities during the Desolate Sea Assembly. Wang Lin stopped Zhu Yi. As he watched Hua Chen leave, his gaze became colder and colder. Chapter 274. Even though Lin Feng was not at the scene, he still clearly heard the ridicule Hua Chen left behind before he left. His evaluation was, the mockery is quite on point, but the more you do this, the more miserable your death will be. In all fairness, Hua Chen's mockery towards Wang Lin definitely hit Wang Lin's weak spot. No matter how cold and calm Wang Lin was usually, he would still be enraged by Hua Chen's words. The gap between him and Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and Tiny Tot had always been a huge mountain in Wang Lin's heart. It had been pressing down on him ever since he entered the sect. Currently, Lin Feng had 6 direct disciples. Not counting Xiao Yan and the other 2, Yu Hongyan was in the late stage of the foundation establishment realm, and Yang Qing had also established her beer and reached the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. This made Wang Lin's situation even more awkward. Everyone in Xianmen Tianzong knew that Wang Lin's combat ability was actually very strong. Although Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing's cultivation levels were higher than his, if they really fought, it would be clear who would win and who would lose. However, the problem was that outsiders did not see it that way. What they could see was that Wang Lin, as the 3rd disciple under Lin Feng, had the lowest cultivation level among the 6. Lin Feng shook his head and laughed. Hua Chen, right? You're doomed. Under Lin Feng's guidance, Wang Lin had always been able to maintain a calm state of mind, turning the pressure into motivation for him to improve instead of resentment towards his fellow disciples. However, the pressure still existed, and he needed an outlet to vent it. Now someone had come to his door voluntarily. If it was Hua Ming in the late stage of the golden elixir, Wang Lin would probably have to wait for a while before he could personally take revenge. However, it was Hua Chen in the late stage of the foundation establishment realm, so it was easy. Brat, I pray to the gods that you don't end up in the same group as Xiao Lin in this Desolate Sea Assembly. Otherwise, you will definitely be beaten up so badly that even your parents won't be able to recognize you. Lin Feng thought with some schadenfreude. Xiaoniu, who is the destined one, is he someone you can casually mock? You're really afraid that you won't die fast enough. Even if you manage to avoid the Desolate Sea Assembly this time, when you enter the Desolate Sea Ancient World to train, you'll still have to obediently be Xiao Lin's experienced baby. The Great Qin Empire wanted to tame the Hua family, and it seems that they've succeeded. An elder's voice suddenly sounded out. Lin Feng came back to his senses and looked at the purple-robed elder next to him. He smiled and said, Sorry to make you laugh, Tao Master Lan Ting. The purple-robed elder smiled and shook his head. His attitude was very friendly, but no one would look down on him. This was because he was a primordial soul mighty figure with divine powers that could turn the world upside down. Tao Master Lan Ting was one of the 3 Tao Masters of the Purple Cloud Path. In terms of identity, he was also the senior brother of the current sect master of the Purple Cloud Path, Tao Master Lei Yun. He had already achieved the primordial soul realm thousands of years ago. Today he suddenly took the initiative to come to him. Although he was very polite, it also made Lin Feng a little surprised. He could not figure out what he was thinking. The Purple Cloud Path was located in the east of the Great Qin Dynasty, at the border between the Great Qin Dynasty and the Great Zhou Dynasty. It was also one of the top sects in the Divine Land, and its strength was on par with the Tianqi sect and the Heavenly Sword sect. Although it was not as good as the 3 sacred grounds of the past, it was stronger than the Sun Moon Sword sect and the Celeritas Sword sect. Lin Feng had just found out that the Purple Cloud Path was also participating in the Desolate Sea Assembly. Not long after he got the news from Dao Jiqiang, Tao Master Lan Ting took the initiative to come to him. This elder was also the leader of the Purple Cloud Path. The Tao of the Purple Cloud Path is quite extraordinary. The Tianqi sect cannot be underestimated. Although he was confident in Xiao Budian and the others, Lin Feng secretly paid attention. Be careful not to fail. The inheritance of the Purple Cloud Path originated from the ancient Almighty Thunder Emperor. The founder of the sect, Tao Master Purple Cloud, was the eldest disciple of the Thunder Emperor and the most orthodox successor. Rumor had it that the Thunder Emperor cultivated the strongest Thunder Tao in the world, the 9 Heavens Thunder Tao. It was said that the beginning of the world's chaos came from the sound of thunder, and the Thunder Emperor's Thunder Tao could even destroy the chaos and rebirth the world, which was why he had the reputation of the Thunder Emperor. This Purple Cloud Path obtained his Thunder Tao inheritance. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was the #1 Thunder Tao sect in the divine land of the human world. As one of the 3 giants of the Purple Cloud Path, Tao Master Lan Ting suddenly came to visit, and his attitude was very humble. This made Lin Feng feel a little strange. I heard that Sect Master Lin has a disciple who cultivates the Infinite Wind Thunder technique, and is quite powerful. In the position of Tao Master Lan Ting, there was no need to hide too much. Everyone spoke straightforwardly. I have a presumptuous request and I hope Sect Master Lin can help me. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Could it be that the other party took a fancy to Xiao Budian's Infinite Wind Thunder technique, and came to ask for it? This was not a matter of being impolite, it was simply asking for a beating. Tao Master Lan Ting also found that his words just now were easy to cause ambiguity, so he quickly said, after listening to the description of others, my 2 junior brothers and I have some questions in our hearts, and we want to ask Sect Master Lin to answer them. Has the other disciple cultivated the 9 Heavens Thunder technique? When Lin Feng heard this, his mind spun and he remembered some information about the Purple Sky Path. He immediately came to a realization. Tao Master Purple Cloud, the founder of the Purple Cloud Path, was the eldest disciple of the Thunder Emperor and inherited the orthodoxy of the Thunder Emperor. Unfortunately, he did not learn all the skills of his master. The 9 Heavens Thunder technique that Tao Master Purple Cloud cultivated was incomplete. This incomplete part had been passed down in history, but most of it had been annihilated in the long river of time. The earliest Taoism that Lin Feng obtained, the 9 Heavens Thunder technique, was a branch derived from the incomplete part of the 9 Heavens Thunder technique. But even so, the 9 Heavens Thunder technique itself could be regarded as a rare Taoism book. It pointed directly to the Great Way and was infinitely mysterious. The magic of the complete version of the 9 Heavens Thunder technique could be seen from this. Tao Master Purple Cloud was worthy of being an ancestor and an ancient hero. Although he was missing a part of the Taoism, he managed to find another way to perfect the 9 Heavens Thunder technique. This method was to cross the Thunder Retribution. In the process of crossing the Thunder Retribution, one had to rely on one's own perception to understand the mystery of the 9 Heavens Thunder technique. Therefore, the name of the Taoism book of the Purple Cloud Path was Tribulation Scripture. Other cultivators would have to cross the Thunder Retribution when they reached the peak of the late Golden Elixir, and advanced from the nascent Soul stage to the Yuanying stage. As for the disciples of the Purple Cloud Path who cultivated the Tribulation Scripture, they would have to endure the test of being struck by the Thunder Retribution from the Foundation Establishment stage. Every time they broke through a small stage, they would have to go through a Thunder Retribution. In the course of their cultivation, they would have to endure a total of 9 Thunder Retributions before they could finally break through to the Essence Soul stage. Although the power of the previous Thunder Retribution was much lower than the real Void Thunder Retribution, when other cultivators formed their nascent soul, the dermic powers of the cultivators of the Purple Cloud Path were also far lower than the late Golden Elixir stage. Therefore, this method of crossing the Thunder Retribution was still extremely dangerous. But other than that, there was no other way to cultivate the 9 Heavens Thunder technique. Therefore, generation after generation of people in the Purple Cloud Path, even though they knew that there was a steep cliff in front of them, and that they would most likely die if they dared to take it, they still had to continue. For thousands of years, it was unknown how many outstanding talents, grandmasters and master craftsmen had died under that thunderous sound. It was also because of this that everyone in the Purple Cloud Path was trying their best to find the missing Dharma, while walking on the broken wooden bridge. However, it is also because they have experienced the test of Thunder Retribution that the strength of the cultivators of the Purple Cloud Path is far better than other cultivators of the same realm. Lin Feng thought, this is also a kind of compensation. Although there were a lot of thoughts in Lin Feng's mind, it was actually just a matter of a moment. That's right. I once obtained the complete copy of the 9 Heavens Thunder technique by accident. Although it's not as exquisite as the true teachings of my sect, I don't forbid my disciples from learning it because of the principle of drawing parallels from other mountains. Lin Feng frankly admitted that with Tao Master Blue Thunder's identity, he must have been 100% sure that he dared to come to him personally and ask for it. Tao Master Blue Thunder nodded and said sincerely, "My sect has been searching for the 9 Heavens Thunder technique for thousands of years. Today I finally found it. I hope Sect Master Lin can help me. My sect will be grateful." Although he did not say it clearly, his words had already made it very clear that Lin Feng could ask for anything. As long as it was not obviously making things difficult for him, the Purple Cloud Path could satisfy him. Lin Feng smiled slightly. "Tao Master Blue Thunder is too polite. I am very happy to help you. This can also be regarded as a good story between our two sections." He flicked his finger and a small light spot landed in front of Tao Master Blue Thunder. Tao Master Blue Thunder took the light spot and scanned it with his Dharma power. He immediately recognized that Lin Feng had given him the complete 9 Heavens Thunder technique. There was not the slightest omission or fraud. The long-cherished wish of the entire sect for thousands of years had been fulfilled. Even Tao Master Blue Thunder, who had experienced countless years, became excited at this moment. Although there were still some flaws in the great path of the 9 Heavens Thunder even after obtaining the 9 Heavens Thunder technique, the remaining flaws were already extremely small. The Purple Cloud Path had taken a big step forward on the path of completing the great path of the 9 Heavens Thunder. Tao Master Blue Thunder calmed himself down and looked up at Lin Feng with an inquisitive look in his eyes. Lin Feng looked calm and just smiled slightly. It seemed that he was also happy that the Purple Cloud Path had successfully completed the incomplete Tao. After a moment of silence, Tao Master Blue Thunder bowed to Lin Feng and said seriously, "On behalf of the entire sect, I thank Sect Master Lin for your help." Lin Feng smiled. It was not that he did not want to repay the favor, but the value of the favor in his hands was the greatest. Any debt was easy to repay, but the favor was the most difficult to repay. Now that he asked for something from Tao Master Blue Thunder, the nature of the favor changed. It became a transaction between the two parties. Once the transaction was over, there would be no follow-up. But now, the transaction had become a favor, which could play a far greater role in the future than today's transaction. If Xianmen Tianzong wanted to rise and take a share of the territory of the original major forces, a strong ally was indispensable. Of course, There was also the possibility that Purple Cloud Dao would refuse to acknowledge their gains and choose to burn the bridge after crossing it. But for Lin Feng, giving away the Nine Heavens Thunder technique was not a loss. If the Purple Cloud Path really wanted to renege on the debt, he had other ways to deal with it. But now it seemed that the Purple Cloud Path, or at least Dao Master Blue Thunder, had quite a good character and remembered Lin Feng's favor. Lin Feng smiled and waved his hand. As I said before, I hope to leave a good story between our two sections. Dao Master Blue Thunder also laughed. I believe Sect Master Junior Brother will also be happy to see this scene. The two laughed at the same time. Lin Feng of Xianmen Tianzong, come out. As they were laughing, a cold voice suddenly came from outside the residence, and the tone was quite rude. Lin Feng's expression remained unchanged, but he was slightly shocked. This Dharma power fluctuation, is it from an essence soul cultivator? Chapter 275. As he spoke, the entire space seemed to be shaking, as if it was about to collapse. At the same time, Lin Feng had a very strange feeling that he seemed to be in a world of intertwining cold and heat, where extreme cold and extreme heat were fused together. This feeling was very strange. It was not that he was alternating between cold and hot, but that he felt two completely different temperatures at the same time. It was not that half of his body was cold and the other half was hot, but that every inch of his skin and pores had a feeling of coldness and heat at the same time. Cold, it was extremely cold. Among the things that Lin Feng had encountered in his life, only Xianming True Water could be better. Heat, it was extremely hot. Except for the few true fires, Lin Feng had never felt such heat before. The temperature in the room did not change at all. All the feelings were due to the other party's Dharma power acting on Lin Feng's divine soul. Moreover, only Lin Feng could feel this feeling of coldness and heat. Dao Master Blue Thunder, who was close to him, could not feel it. However, this did not prevent Dao Master Blue Thunder from discovering the problem. He snorted coldly. Chao Wei of the Celestial Pool Sect. Lin Feng had never encountered the Dharma power of the Celestial Pool Sect before. Now that Dao Master Blue Thunder mentioned it, a name immediately appeared in his mind. Dao Master Icefire, Chao Wei, the current sect master of the Celestial Pool Sect. This time, Chao Wei personally led the Celestial Pool Sect to participate in the Wilderness Sea Assembly. Rumor has it that the foundation of the Celestial Pool Sect is in the Snow Mountain Celestial Pool. In this world of ice and snow, there is an active volcano. No wonder he can cultivate this strange Dharma power that fuses ice and fire. Lin Feng said with a smile, turning a deaf ear to Chao Wei's pressure on him. Dao Master Blue Thunder's snow-white eyebrows trembled slightly, and a smile appeared on his face. If Lin Feng could not deal with Chao Wei, he did not mind helping him, but in that case, it would be equivalent to returning the favor. If the two sides were not equal in strength, the weak could only follow the strong, and would not become allies. Xianmen Tianzong is indeed extraordinary. Dao Master Lan Ting secretly nodded. The house they were now in was specially prepared by the Great Qin dynasty for Lin Feng, and the others in Yuzhou City. The environment was pleasant, but it would be a complete joke to say that it could stop Chao Wei, the primordial soul stage Dao Master Icefire. Chao Wei's voice came from the sky outside the house. There was no anger in his voice, only endless coldness. I heard that Lin Feng, Xianmen Tianzong's disciples, are known to be invincible in fights of magical powers in the same realm. Since that's the case, why don't you and I have a match? Let's see if you, Xianmen Tianzong, are truly invincible within the same realm. Before his voice died away, Lin Feng could feel a violent fluctuation of magical power coming from outside the house. Without going out of the house, Lin Feng could also see a middle-aged man standing in the sky. He was not tall, wearing a silk scarf and a white robe. He was dressed like a Confucian scholar, and had a white velvet cloak draped over his shoulders. His eyes were also staring at Lin Feng. The two of them looked at each other. Lin Feng's eyes were as deep as the sea, calm and unfathomable. Chao Wei's gaze was incomparably cold, but within the coldness, there seemed to be a blazing and violent emotion brewing. This person's eyes were snow-white, like the snowfield of the North Pole. In the center of the eyes, there was a flame jumping. The flames did not burn intensely, it seemed to be incomparably oppressive. Lin Feng looked at the flames. It was as if he was standing on top of a volcano looking down, looking at the constantly tumbling magma that could erupt at any time. Chao Wei said coldly, "Xianmen Tianzong?" Suddenly, snow-white crystals appeared around his body. These crystals were pulsating like flames. However, Lin Feng could see that these crystals were formed by ice and snow. These ice and snow were dancing in the air like a raging fire, emitting a fiery temperature. Lin Feng understood. Is this the Celestial Pool Sect's signature magical power, the ice flame? The Celestial Pool Sect's supreme technique was called the Arctic Flaming Sun Mystic Spell. If one succeeded in cultivating it, they could cultivate the ice flame that had the power of both ice and fire, combining the extreme cold and extreme heat. Is there something wrong with this guy's brain? Lin Feng felt strange. Was he instigated by someone, or does he really not like me? Why did he come to fight me for no reason? At first, Chao Wei's ice flame only jumped around his body, but the next moment, it covered the entire sky and completely covered Yuzhou City. The monstrous ice and raging fire fell on Lin Feng like a rain of fire. However, the power of this rain of fire was something that even Lin Feng and Tao Master Blue Thunder had to pay attention to. Every raindrop-like flame contained the powerful Dharma power of Chao Wei's primordial soul realm, and had amazing destructive power. Lin Feng was still sitting in the room. He did not even move his body. He just stretched out his right hand and clenched it in the air. In the sky, the rain of fire that had just begun to fall suddenly had nowhere to go. The space in front of them suddenly cracked and turned into chaos. Countless chaotic earth, water, fire, and wind elements swallowed the rain of fire with a momentum that was even more fierce than the rain of fire. The sky above Yuzhou City was completely shattered by Lin Feng's shatter of heaven and earth. The void was shattered and countless spiritual qi of heaven and earth became a pot of porridge. Like a flood, it rushed towards Chao Wei and wanted to swallow him. Chao Wei's expression did not change. He just nodded slightly, pinched a spell with his right hand and shouted, "Seal!" The ice flame around him suddenly jumped and the original hot temperature became colder and colder, until it finally became bone-chilling. The original appearance of ice and snow had now turned into a pale white flame. Contrary to the previous hot ice and snow, it was now a cold pale white flame. The flame was very slow, as if it was moving in slow motion. It did not look like a lively flame, but like it was gradually solidifying. These flames jumped and forcibly froze the rushing earth, water, fire, and wind elements. Finally, they stabilized and disappeared. Lin Feng calmly looked at Chao Wei and thought, maybe I can test my new spell on him. In the previous confrontation, Chao Wei had exchanged 2 moves for 1 move from Lin Feng, so he was at a slight disadvantage. With Chao Wei's aggressive attitude, he would definitely not take this lying down. As expected, Chao Wei chanted and the ice flame around him condensed into the shape of a volcano, emitting a terrifying wave of energy. However, Lin Feng frowned slightly. It was not because Chao Wei's move was too strong. On the contrary, it was too weak. The power was not weak, but the casting speed was too slow. At Chao Wei's realm, words were the law. With a thought, he could cast endless magic. In the eyes of others, this speed was still something that happened in an instant. However, in the eyes of Lin Feng, it was clearly too slow. Right at this moment, a fat old man who was smiling amiably suddenly appeared between the two of them. He chuckled and said, "This Dharma assembly is a competition between the disciples of the sect. Why are the two of you fighting each other first? Slow down, slow down. Please give the Great Qin Empire some face. I thank you in advance." Lin Feng smiled and said, "So it's Tao Master Changla. Nice to meet you." Tao Master Changla smiled and said, "Sect Master Lin, you are too polite." He then turned to look at Chao Wei and said, "Sect Master Chao, long time no see." Although they had never met before, Lin Feng had already done some research on the powerful people of the Qin Empire before this trip. This fat old man looked friendly, but he was one of the core figures of the Qin Empire. His name was Tao Master Changla. He was originally a member of the royal family, and reached the Essence Soul Realm 1,000 years ago. He usually liked to roam the world freely, but when the Qin Empire was in trouble, he would still act decisively. However, It was unexpected that this old man would participate in this barren sea spell gathering. This discovery made Lin Feng's heart flutter. Dao Master Chong Lu, who rarely appears, is here. Then what about the other Essence Soul Realm experts of the Qin Empire? It seems that this barren sea spell gathering is not simple. The Qin Empire's plan is not small. Long time no see. Qiao Wei looked at Dao Master Chong Lu coldly. His eyes flickered as if he still wanted to fight. At this moment, two bright sword lights suddenly split the sky and appeared beside Dao Master Chong Lu. The sharp sword essence made Lin Feng and Qiao Wei frown. Sect Master Qiao, do you want to slaughter the entire Yu State City? The person on the left was a handsome young man. His smile was like a spring breeze. If the two of you really fight, let alone Yu State City, even the northern border of the Qin Empire will be completely destroyed. Lin Feng and Qiao Wei's eyes narrowed at the same time. Glorious Sword Master? Although this person looked young, he was actually a Essence Soul Realm expert who had been famous for thousands of years. He was a member of the Nine Heaven Sword Alliance, and the sect master of the Sun Moon Sword Sect, Glorious Sword Master. The disciples of the Sun Moon Sword Sect would form pairs from the Foundation Establishment stage, and choose their sword partners to accompany them for life. One male and one female, one yin and one yang. One cultivated the glorious Sun Sword Doctrine, and the other cultivated the Moonlight Sword Doctrine. They would help and support each other. If one of them died, they would choose another disciple who had a similar cultivation level, and was also alone to pair up. However, reaching the primordial spirit realm was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The Sun Luminary Sword Venerable achieved primordial spirit by himself, but his sword companion was not as lucky. Therefore, strictly speaking, he could be considered the only bachelor in the Sun Moon Sword sect among the cultivators above the Foundation Establishment stage. For thousands of years, he had been waiting for his Moonlight Sword Master. The disciples of the Sun Moon Sword sect could combine the glorious Sun Sword and the Moonlight Sword, which could exert the effect of 1 + 1 was far greater than 2. But even if they were alone, the strength of the sword cultivators under their sect was also superb. Glorious Sword Master himself was a great sword cultivator who looked down on all heroes, and was not weaker than Flowing Light Sword Master on the other side. The person standing on the right side of Dao Master Changel was Flowing Light Sword Master, who had met Lin Feng once. At this moment, he did not say a word and did not care about Qiao Wei in the sky. Instead, his eyes fell on Lin Feng, and no one knew what he was thinking. At this time, Dao Master Changel laughed and said, I will be the host. Please give me some face. Lin Feng smiled indifferently and said, the guest follows the host. Anyway, he did not suffer any losses before, so he was happy to be generous. And through observation, Lin Feng found that Qiao Wei inexplicably came to provoke him. It seemed that he had other intentions. In this case, he would not let Qiao Wei get what he wanted. In the sky, Qiao Wei glanced at Dao Master Changel, and then at Glorious Sword Master, and Flowing Light Sword Master. He nodded coldly and said, after the spell conference we will discuss it. Since the Master had arrived, it was not good for Lin Feng and Dao Master Blue Thunder to sit in the house. They came out together and rose into the air. The several Essence Soul Realm cultivators stood facing each other. Dao Master Changel laughed and said, the ancient desolate sea world is about to open and the spell conference is about to officially begin. Please follow me to the North Wind Sea. Lin Feng nodded with a smile, and was about to agree when his heart suddenly moved. Damn, these troublemakers. Chapter 276. With a thought from Lin Feng, he felt a murderous aura fill the streets of the northern part of Yu State City. On the street, a big man like an ancient beast stood on the ground, glaring at a group of white-clothed people opposite him. This big man was dressed in a different race's attire, and his body was full of vitality. It was clear that he specialized in body martial arts. Behind him was a group of cultivators dressed in the same attire. All of them were full of vitality, like a group of violent dragons. When Lin Feng saw this, he suddenly understood. Are they people from the Northern Militant Royal Court? The cultivation system of the Northern Militant Imperial Court was divided into two relatively extreme directions. The vast majority of people specialized in body martial arts. The strength of their bodies was at the top of the entire Heaven Yuan Great World, enough to be comparable to many ancient monster race bloodlines. There was also a small group of people who focused on soul techniques, also known as shaman techniques. They were very different from the orthodox inheritance of the divine land, but they had very high attainments in the way of the soul. Opposite these northern militant cultivators was a group of people in white with cold expressions. They were the Heavenly Pool sect cultivators that he had seen before. But this was not the main point. The main point was that Lin Feng discovered that Xiao Budian, Tuntin, and Zhuge Fengling were sneakily hiding near the two opposing groups. Their faces were filled with a gloating expression as if they were watching the show. What gave Lin Feng a headache was the smiles on the faces of the three little fellows. No matter how he looked at them, they looked like three little weasels that had successfully stolen a chicken. Lin Feng's expression did not change, but he rolled his eyes in his heart. What trouble did these troublemakers cause this time? Chao Wei also noticed the movement over there. Seeing the northern militant cultivators, his expression became even colder. Dao Master Changlu and the others also noticed the movement over there. Dao Master Changlu, who was always cheerful, let out a rare sigh. Your Highness left virtuous prince, please restrain your people. Otherwise, my great Qinzhou state city will be flattened by you. The two countries bordered each other, and sometimes there would be disputes. With so many northern militant cultivators causing such a big commotion, in the eyes of the ordinary citizens of Yu State City, it was no different from an invasion by the northern militant. If the other side did not give an explanation, even with Dao Master Chang Li's good temper, he would be ruthless and start killing. A bold and unrestrained voice came from the northern sky, laughing loudly. Dao Master Chang Lu, please forgive me. My sons were too reckless. The laughter came from very far at first, but in the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of Lin Feng and the others. The person who appeared in front of everyone was a tall middle-aged man. He was dressed luxuriously, but all of this could not conceal the primitive vitality and explosive power hidden under his smile. The strength of his qi and blood. Lin Feng standing next to him was like standing next to the sun. This person's body was emitting blood, almost condensing into a substance. One could faintly see a red halo around his body, making one's heart palpitate. This was the person with the strongest body Lin Feng had ever seen since he came to this world. He was also the only person he had seen since he reached the Yuanying stage that could beat the God of War's avatar in terms of pure physical strength. Northern Militant Left Virtuous Prince, one of the top figures of the Northern Militant Imperial Court in the Primordial Soul stage. Lin Feng looked at him and was secretly amazed. Reaching the Primordial Soul stage is to combine one's own Yuanying with the laws of heaven and earth, and then combine it with the power of laws to refine one's own Primordial Soul incarnation. After most cultivators reach the primordial spirit stage, they will even abandon their original flesh and skin. But this northern militant left virtuous prince seems to be doing the opposite, fusing the primordial spirit avatar with his flesh and skin, abandoning the primordial soul incarnation to be unrestricted and free beyond the heavens in order to continue strengthening the body. It's really hard to say what the gains and losses are. Lin Feng thought. In the human race's divine land, the best place to cultivate the body is the Buddhist holy land of the past, the Great Thunder Sound Temple. I heard that the Buddhist powerhouses who reach the primordial soul stage will all refine their own golden bodies, which are completely different from ordinary primordial soul incarnations. I wonder if it's the same, combining the power of the primordial soul incarnation with the body? With Prince Wuxian's words, the northern militant cultivators gradually retracted their killing intent, but their gazes towards the people of the Heavenly Pool sect were still filled with anger. The Heavenly Pool sect cultivators still had cold expressions as they stared at the men of the northern militant without a care. The two sides already had many conflicts, so it was no big deal to fight. Dao Master Changlu, please forgive us. Our children were a bit reckless, but we can't blame them. Prince Wuxian slowly said. Dao Master must also know that we northern militant people raise horses for generations. Our fellow mortals raise ordinary horses, and the cultivators of our generation who embark on the path of cultivation raise dark cloud howling wind beasts and other spirit beasts. However, our feelings towards these horses are the same. They are the family of us northern militant people. They accompany us through the wind, frost, rain and snow. Prince Wuxian's gaze landed on Chao Wei. Although he still wore a smile on his face, there was a hint of anger in his tone. Now there's a despicable person who dares to steal our family members. How can we just ignore it? Dao Master Changla was stunned. You have a dark cloud howling wind beast that was stolen. The dark cloud howling wind beast was a kind of spirit beast that the cultivators of the northern militant imperial court usually raised. It looked like a horse, but its physical strength was much stronger. Its body was the size of an elephant, and it had a bloodthirsty and ferocious temperament. Like the Brontosaurus horses, the dark cloud howling wind beast had a bit of the bloodline of the ancient sky dragon. Although it was also impure, it was purer than the Brontosaurus horses, and its strength was also stronger than the Brontosaurus horses. The northern militant imperial court had a dark cloud howling wind beast king. Its strength was not inferior to the dragon clan of the same realm. This kind of spirit beast was raised by almost every northern militant cultivator. It grew up with them and walked the path of cultivation together. It was not only a companion, but also a good helper when facing enemies. The relationship between the northern militant cultivators and their dark cloud howling wind beasts was very good, but now that it had been stolen, it was no wonder that they were all angry. Even a primordial spirit expert like the northern militant left virtuous prince was truly angry. Chao Wei saw that the other side was staring at him with ill intent. How could he not know that this debt had been placed on his head? He almost subconsciously wanted to refute, but the words stopped at the tip of his tongue. His Tianqi sect had never had a harmonious relationship with the northern militant imperial court. The two sides would often have friction, let alone small conflicts. They had even fought a large battle more than once. Now that they had suddenly gathered in Yu State City, it was hard to say whether or not there were disciples of his sect that were unhappy with the northern militant barbarians and wanted to kill a few dark cloud howling wind beasts to vent their anger. Chao Wei had the ability to control the actions of all the disciples in his sect, but he was not that bored. Even if there was such a thing, it was not a big deal. Although this kind of action was a bit petty, Chao Wei did not intend to criticize his own disciples. You can't even look after your own horses and want to blame others. Is this how you northern militant people do things? Chao Wei's expression was cold as he indifferently said, If I were you, I would first review the negligence of my own sect. Who knows if your horses ran away on their own? If there's anything, blame it on my Tianqi sect. My Tianqi sect doesn't have the time to entertain you, Chao Wei coldly said. If you want to find trouble, my Tianqi sect will accept it. Don't make up so many laughable excuses. The northern militant Wuxian prince looked up to the sky and laughed. What a good Tianqi sect. You dare to do it but don't dare to admit it? My children have been chasing the mane of the dark cloud howling wind beasts all the way to your Tianqi sect's camp. They even found one of the stolen dark cloud howling wind beasts in the courtyard. Catching a thief and taking his dirty clothes, you have no choice but to admit it. Seeing the two opposing each other, Lin Feng felt a bit guilty. He quietly turned his body and didn't say anything. Those two gluttons. Lin Feng had the urge to slap his forehead. He was 90% sure that it was Xiao Budian who stole the northern militant imperial court's dark cloud howling wind beasts, and then shifted the blame to the Tianqi sect that had always been at odds with the northern militant. In fact, their method of shifting the blame was very crude. It was impossible for the northern militant imperial court not to see the problem, but they were happy to make the best of their mistake and run to the Tianqi sect to cause trouble. Who cares if it was really you who did it? Let's fight first. Sure enough, Lin Feng's divine sense swept out and saw Xiao Budian and the other two watching the confrontation between the two forces. From the looks of it, they couldn't wait for the two sides to fight. Then they could fish in troubled waters and reap more benefits from it. Come back, they can't fight anymore. Lin Feng speechlessly transmitted his voice to the three little fellows who were afraid that things wouldn't get out of hand. Xiao Budian and Tunton looked at each other and laughed. while Zhuge Fengling's face was filled with obvious regret. The three sneakily retreated, moving closer to Lin Feng's side. On the other side, Dao Master Chang Lu was helplessly mediating between northern militant Prince Shuxian and Qiao Wei. You and I are both guests today. I won't talk nonsense with you. Northern militant Prince Shuxian waved his hand. In a moment, the Wasteland Sea Assembly will officially start. Let's let the children of our two families compete. Do you dare to make a bet with me? Qiao Wei coldly said. Bet on what? Prince Shuxian said. If the children of our two families draw lots at the assembly to determine the winner, if your Tianqi sect wins, we will forget about this matter. But if the children of the Northern Militant Imperial Court win, you will have to publicly apologize and return our dark cloud howling wind beast. Qiao Wei coldly snorted. Ridiculous, do you dare to be more thick-skinned? Northern militant Prince Shuxian was not in a hurry at this time. He slowly said, if you can't make the decision, you can go back and discuss it with Elder Bing and Elder Hua. I can wait. When Sun Glory Swordmaster and Lu Guang Swordmaster heard this, their expressions became strange. Dao Master Chang Lu smiled bitterly. Lin Feng secretly clicked his tongue. This northern militant Prince Shuxian looked big and tall, but his words were so sinister. Different from Lu Guang Swordmaster and Sun Glory Swordmaster, Qiao Wei, as the sect master of the Tianqi sect, was not the only one in the sect. There were also two supreme elders above him. Because these two people had been cultivating in seclusion all year round, few people knew their names. The outside world generally called them Elder Bing and Elder Hua. In fact, Elder Bing and Elder Hua had not been involved in worldly affairs for many years. The internal affairs of the Tianqi sect were all handled by Qiao Wei. He could be said to be a man of his word in the sect. However, if Elder Bing and Elder Hua really wanted to speak, Qiao Wei would definitely have to think twice. It was just that this situation was extremely rare. But now Prince Shuxian was using this point to squeeze him. It was really harsh words. Chapter 277. Prince Shuxian's words could be said to be extremely sinister. From Lin Feng's point of view, Qiao Wei, who was always gloomy and slightly irritable, was most likely going to fight with Prince Shuxian after hearing this. Dao Master Chang Lu and the others were also on guard. No matter what, if two primordial soul realm cultivators were to fight here, just the aftermath would be enough to raze Yu State City to the ground. Unexpectedly, although Qiao Wei was still gloomy, he was not angry. He only said coldly, it's just a small matter with the northern militant. There's no need to disturb the two martial uncles. At this moment, a voice passed through the void and reached everyone's ears. How can I not participate in a bet? Dao Master Chang Lu heard this person's voice and smiled bitterly. Don't add to the mess. Dao Master Lan Ting smiled and turned to Lin Feng. Dao Master gambling is still the same. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. Without Dao Master Lan Ting's introduction, Lin Feng could guess who the other person was just from what he said. The Qin dynasty's special guest, primordial soul realm cultivator Zhuge Guang. Most people were used to calling him Dao Master Gambling, but he called himself Dual Heaven's Sovereign. This person loved gambling. He could gamble anything and everything, but he also learned from gambling. He understood the changes of the 7 emotions and 6 desires to the extreme, and integrated them into his own Dao. This person could be considered a big anomaly in the entire Heaven Primal world. Everyone knew him, and he was destined to leave his name in history. Ordinary people loved to gamble. They gambled on money, on land, and when they lost, they gambled on their wives and children. But when it came to gambling stakes, from ancient times until now, no one could compare to this master Zhuge Guang. This was because the most precious thing he had ever lost was his own primordial soul realm magic treasure. There was no one in the past, but it would be difficult for anyone to do so in the future. Although this Dao Master was a bit unreliable, his interruption eased the atmosphere a lot. Dao Master Chang Lu took the opportunity to mediate and finally appease Prince Shuxian and Qiao Wei. Everyone, the ancient desolate sea world is about to open. Please come with us to the North Wind Sea. Dao Master Chang Lu smiled as he led the way. Everyone in Yuzhou City followed behind him. Lin Feng led Xianmen Tianzong and the others, while the northern militant left virtuous prince and Chao Wei each led the northern militant imperial court and Tianqi sect cultivators. The Azura Daoist Lord Wuxia, who did not make a move despite Lin Feng and Chao Wei's earth-shattering battle, finally appeared at this time, leading a group of Hu family cultivators and walking quietly at the back of the group. Outside the city, the cultivators of Purple Cloud Path, Celerita's Sword Sect and Sun Moon Sword Sect were divided into 3 groups, quietly waiting for their ancestors. Silently, after Dao Master Lan Ting and the others appeared, they silently followed. Even though the Yu state is 1,000 miles away from the North Wind Sea, for Lin Feng and the others it's only a short distance away. They each used their mana to sweep up the disciples of their sect, and in an instant everyone had already arrived at the North Wind Sea. Even if they stood high up in the clouds and looked down, the North Wind Sea was still a vast swamp, with no end in sight. Although they knew it was a lake, from the visual effect, it really lived up to its name of sea. And the entrance to the ancient desolate sea world was said to be at the bottom of this lake. At the edge of the North Wind Sea, there was already a group of people waiting there silently. The auras of the 2 people at the front made people's hearts palpitate. One of them was a short and fat old man with bright black eyes, like a child. He held a domino in his hand and flipped it between his fingers. Is this the gambling Dao master Zhuge Guang? After Lin Feng stared at the short and fat old man, his gaze shifted to another person. Compared to Zhuge Guang, this person attracted his attention even more. It was an old man wearing a white robe with golden edges. He had white hair and a youthful face. His face was like jade. His expression was graceful, but there was a kind of king's aura. At a glance, Lin Feng could not see the depth of the old man's cultivation, but he had a clear feeling that the old man was stronger than Zhuge Guang. It was not just Zhuge Guang. Apart from the 2 of them among the 6 primordial soul experts present, Wuxia, Dao Master Changlu Chao Wei, Sword Master Flowing Light, Sword Master Glorious Sunlight, and Dao Master Blue Thunder, none of them could defeat the old man. This old man's cultivation is even higher than the others. He has already surpassed the first tier of the primordial soul realm, the realm of incarnation. Lin Feng had an idea, but his expression did not change at all. This was because he noticed that after the white-robed old man's gaze swept across the crowd, it finally landed on him. After the 2 of them looked at each other calmly for a moment, the white-robed old man nodded slightly and said loudly, "My great Qin dynasty is hosting the Desolate Sea Assembly today. Thank you, fellow Taoists, for coming. It is my honor." Everyone landed on the ground together. Sword Master Glorious Sunlight smiled and said, "Prince Onliang, you are too kind." Lin Feng suddenly understood the identity of this white-robed old man. The Prince of Tranquility, Shi Zongyue, a prince of the great Qin dynasty, and also the imperial uncle of the current emperor of Qin. In the Great Qin dynasty, his position is extremely high and he is one of the core members of the royal family. Shi Zongyue looked at Chao Wei and asked, "Are Old Lin and Old Xiang doing well?" The Old Lin and Old Xiang he mentioned were undoubtedly the ice and fire elders of the Tianqi sect. However, Shi Zongyue's tone made it sound like he was treating Chao Wei as a junior. "Thank you for your concern, Prince Onliang. The 2 uncle masters are currently in seclusion." Chao Wei displayed the bearing of a sect leader, and did not lower his status in front of Shi Zongyue. He replied indifferently, "Before Uncle Master Lin went into seclusion, he mentioned that he might gain something from this seclusion. After the 2 uncle masters come out, they will probably find some old friends to catch up." Hearing this, Shi Zongyue revealed a smile. He looked Chao Wei up and down and said with a smile, "That couldn't be better. I'll wait for them." On the other side, Prince Suoxian's eyes flashed with a trace of gloom. He clearly did not feel that this was good news. After greeting everyone, Shi Zongyue finally looked at Lin Feng. The younger generation will surpass the older. Sect leader Lin has been quite famous recently. Lin Feng looked up at Shi Zongyue and laughed inwardly, deliberately taking advantage of his seniority. "Is this old man testing me?" His expression did not change as he said calmly, "It's just that the young people nowadays don't know how to respect their elders." As he said this, his gaze swept over Chao Wei's face. Right now Lin Feng still looks like a young man on the outside, but his background is too mysterious. Everyone in the world is guessing his master, his background, and even his true age. Shi Zhongyue deliberately took advantage of his seniority to observe Lin Feng's reaction, but he was blocked by Lin Feng's words. Although Lin Feng's gaze seemed to fall on Qiao Wei, Shi Zhongyue could not tell who the young man was. As one of the oldest elders of the Qin dynasty, if Shi Zhongyue was considered a young man in Lin Feng's eyes, then it was simply unimaginable. And from another point of view, Lin Feng's words can also be extended to other meanings. Don't take advantage of your seniority in front of me. I won't fall for it. If you dare to provoke me, I'll beat you up. Who cares if you're old or young? In short, it was fine to listen to it straight or the other way around. Interesting. Facing Lin Feng's ambiguous answer, Shi Zhongyue did not get angry. Instead, he revealed an unfathomable smile. At this time, Dao Master Chang'e stood next to Shi Zhongyue. This time, the Qin dynasty sent 3 primordial soul realm powerhouses. The master's aura was completely revealed. Among the 3, there was no doubt that Shi Zhongyue, who had the highest status and cultivation, was the leader. After greeting everyone, Shi Zhongyue said, like the previous Baron C assembly, the arena for the competition is still in the Hidden Dragon Kettle. Does anyone have any objections? Lin Feng and the others looked at each other and shook their heads at the same time. The Hidden Dragon Kettle was a magic weapon owned by the royal family of the Qin dynasty. It contained a universe and opened up an independent space. It was a mysterious spirit space. In the previous Baron C assembly, the Hidden Dragon Kettle was used as the arena. The descendants of various forces entered the Hidden Dragon Kettle to fight and compete. The Hidden Dragon Kettle had many miraculous uses. One of them was that there were many unique Dharma power restrictions in the kettle. If someone fought in the kettle and received a fatal blow, the Hidden Dragon Kettle would automatically release a Dharma power restriction to block the fatal blow for the injured person. Normally, the Hidden Dragon Pot Grotto Heaven was a place for the disciples of the Great Qin dynasty to spar. They could go all out and fight with their lives on the line. The rewards were far greater than normal battles, where they had reservations. Seeing that Lin Feng and the others had no objections, Shi Zhongyue flipped his palm and shouted, "Rise!" A small, exquisite, flat kettle with dragon patterns carved on it flew into the air. It looked like it was only the size of an adult's palm, but the Dharma power that flowed out from it was extremely powerful and intimidating. Just like in previous years, in order to encourage the young disciples to work hard, only those who obtain a certain ranking in the assembly can enter the ancient desolate sea world. Shi Zhongyue continued. The competition will be divided into the Golden Elixir period and the Foundation Establishment period. Every sect or family will send 4 people from the Golden Elixir period and the Foundation Establishment period. After drawing lots, they will compete in pairs. The top 16 from the Golden Elixir period and the top 8 from the Foundation Establishment period will be allowed to enter the ancient desolate sea world. The ancient desolate sea world also had its natural dangers. It was not a safe vacation spot. Those who did not have enough strength would instead be in great danger. Thus, there had always been only 8 spots for Foundation Establishment period cultivators. In reality, even if they entered, these Foundation Establishment period cultivators mainly needed the care of their fellow sect members from the Golden Elixir period to ensure their safety. Lin Feng and the others were already aware of this, so they naturally did not have any objections. At this time, Shi Zhongyue turned to look at Sun Luminary Sword Venerable. Your Sun Moon Sword sect disciples should participate in the competition according to the previous method. Everyone knew that the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples were in pairs. Under the combination of the Sun and Moon swords, their battle power would produce an effect far greater than 2. A pair of sword companions attacking together was the strongest battle state of the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples. However, this was clearly unfair to the others. Even if they also sent 2 people to fight 2 against 2, they would still be at a disadvantage against the Sun Moon Sword sect's combination swords. Thus, in the past Desolate Sea Assembly, the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples would participate alone. Lin Feng also knew of this practice, but he had his own plans. Thus he raised a different opinion. I think that the rules can be changed for the Sun Moon Sword sect this year. Chapter 278. Shi Zongyue and the others looked at each other and asked curiously, "What does Sect Master Lin think?" Lin Feng smiled slightly. The Sun Moon Sword sect is allowed to send 2 people to participate. Those who draw their lots can choose a companion from their side and compete in a 2-on-2 match. It's fine if they don't enter the top 16 or top 8 in the Golden Elixir period. But if they do, the 2 people from the winning side can enter the ancient desolate sea world together. Lin Feng explained. If they fight after entering the top 16 or top 8 in the Golden Elixir period, the side that wins the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples will also obtain 2 spots, and the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples will retain 2 spots to enter the ancient desolate sea world. Lin Feng looked at Shi Zongyue. From what I know, the ranking of the Ancient Desolate Sea Spell Assembly is to encourage the younger generation to improve, and also because the Ancient Desolate Sea world is unstable. If too many people enter, it will cause the space to collapse. But even if all the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples advance, there will only be 8 more people. It should still be within the limits of the Ancient Desolate Sea world. Hearing this, Sun Moon Sword Venerable fell silent. If they could compete in a 2-on-2 match, the Sun Moon Sword sect would definitely have many advantages over fighting alone. Shi Zongyue, Zhuge Guang and Dao Master Chonglu exchanged glances, but did not say anything. The Sun Moon Sword sect had always been on good terms with the Qin dynasty's imperial family. They were happy to see the other party's strength increase. The other primordial soul experts looked at each other and felt that this suggestion had both advantages and disadvantages. If they could win against the Sun Moon Sword sect's dual sword harmonious combination, then it would be equivalent to having 1 more spot to enter the ancient desolate sea world. This was undoubtedly a very attractive thing. The Dharma assembly was related to the reputation of each school. The disciples who appeared were usually the best in their own school. No one was easy to deal with. Who knew who their opponents would be if they drew lots randomly? It was not unheard of for disciples of the same sect to meet in the first round. However, the Sun Moon Sword sect's dual sword harmonious combination was famous, so people could not help but think about it. As the one who proposed this, Lin Feng had a calm expression on his face, as if he wasn't worried at all that his disciples would be at a disadvantage when fighting 2 against 2. Everyone present was a primordial divinity expert who had lived for thousands of years. They would not allow their disciples to fight a battle that they would definitely lose just because they wanted to compete with Lin Feng. However, they would not underestimate their opponents, nor would they overestimate them. Although the Sun Moon Sword sect's dual sword amalgamation was famous, the few Essence Divinity stage elders were also confident in their disciples. Even if he really couldn't defeat them, it would still be a rare experience and training. The few primordial soul realm experts looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Let's go with sect leader Lin's suggestion. Lin Feng continued. Other than that, I apologize for making a fool of myself. I, Xianmen Tianzong, have 2 disciples from the Golden Elixir period and 3 disciples from the Foundation Establishment realm participating in the spell assembly. Hearing this, Shi Zongyue, Chao Wei, and venerated swordsman Flowing Light all smiled. Lin Feng himself was very calm. He also had a smile on his face, and didn't feel embarrassed at all. Shi Zongyue coughed dryly. It doesn't matter. We'll still draw lots to decide who's going to fight. 2 disciples from the Golden Elixir period and 1 disciple from the Foundation Establishment realm will be decided by drawing lots. Lin Feng nodded. That's good. Shi Zongyue said. Everyone, you can go and communicate with your disciples. We'll draw lots later. The few of them released their magic power, and their disciples landed on the ground. Other than the cultivators who were really going to participate in the competition, there were also many people who came to watch the battle, including many Yuaniing cultivators. There were even Qi refinement cultivators, who were usually the seedlings with the most potential in their sections. They were favored by their masters long ago, and were brought here to broaden their horizons. The others were all in groups. Only Lin Feng's sect was relatively deserted. There were only 2 or 3 big and small cats. But the vast majority of people wouldn't look down on Xianmen Tianzong. Xiao Budian, Zhu Yi and the others were now considered famous. The battle before the Sand Continent's opening ceremony had indeed made Xianmen Tianzong famous to a certain extent. Then, Xiao Budian and the others all had to thank their big senior brother Xiao Yan, who wasn't here at the moment. On Cloud Traversing Peak he fought the Peak Yuanying early-stage cultivator Crown Prince Chongyan. Although the course of that battle wasn't spread widely under the control of some people, many of the Cellerita's swordsman sect disciples who were there at that time were here. There was still a lot of information that leaked out. Many times, the more secretive this kind of situation was, the more attention it drew. Of course, there were also people who were straightforward. A white-clothed girl arrived in front of Xiao Budian and the others at this time. She first bowed towards Lin Feng, who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, and then her gaze impudently sized up Xiao Budian and the others. This woman was extremely beautiful. Her facial features were picturesque, but she had an extremely strong aggressiveness. Although she was incomparably ostentatious, she didn't seem overbearing or domineering. Only her gaze revealed a very obvious desire to fight. Xiaoyan didn't come? Tilting her head and sizing them up for a while, the woman in white was somewhat disappointed. But her gaze fell on Xiao Budian and Zhu Yi, and she still nodded her head. However, you two aren't bad either. She then glanced at Tunton. You're also not bad. Tunton curled its lips, turning its head to the side and mumbling. I just don't know if you taste good or not. The woman in white did not get angry when she heard this. Instead she smiled. You Taotai, you stole and ate so many Zhu Yuha from my Cloud Traversing Peak. I still haven't settled the score with you. Tunton bared its teeth at her. The woman in white had already turned around and left, waving her hand as she walked. Hope to run into you guys. The head disciple of the Cellerita's sword sect Xiao Yan hurried over at this time. Seeing the woman in white, his face couldn't help but be filled with a bitter smile. The woman in white smiled without a care in the world and said, Relax, I'm just going over to say hello, that's all. Xiao Yan sent the woman in white off with his gaze, turned around and helplessly said, Eldest senior sister is just like this. If she was impolite, please don't blame her. Xiao Budian curiously said, Aren't you the head disciple of the Cellerita's sword sect? Zhao Yan said, Accurately speaking, I'm the eldest senior brother of the Cellerita's sword sect's inner sect disciples. And above me, there's still an eldest senior sister, which is the one just now. Hearing Zhao Yan's description, only then did Xiao Budian, Zhu Yi and the others know the identity of the woman in white just now. Tao Yaoyao, the head disciple of the Cellerita's sword sect in the truest sense, the #1 cultivator in the golden elixir period. It's just that she's been in closed-door cultivation all these years, gradually being forgotten by people. Even within the Cellerita's sword sect, some of the new disciples don't know that there's such an eldest senior sister. But in reality, Tao Yaoyao had long become famous hundreds of years ago, and she was the last personal disciple that Sword Venerable Flowing Light took him before Morong Yan ran. Zhui nodded his head. Tao Yaoyao, the Yaoyao from the Yaoyao of Peaches, dazzling her beauty. No matter if it's you guys or Xiao Yan, although you can contend against Yuanying stage cultivators with golden elixir period cultivation, it's only contend and nothing more. Zhao Yan swept Xiao Budian and Zhu Yi with a glance. Eldest senior sister truly killed a Yuanying stage old monster with golden elixir period cultivation. Xiao Budian's eyes lit up. Oh. Just as Zhao Yan was about to say something, a voice suddenly came from the side. It's indeed true, but Tao Yaorao herself also suffered serious injuries because of this. That's why she hibernated for so many years, to the point that many people gradually forgot her name. The one who came was a young girl wearing a yellow muslin dress, looking at Xiao Budian with a smile. Tianhao, it's really been a long time. The last time I saw you, you were only this big. She giggled and gestured with her hands, as if she was hugging a baby. Xiao Budian looked at her, his gaze slightly focused as he silently said, Oh, but I don't remember what sister looks like. The yellow-clothed girl smiled. That's natural. You were just born at that time, you were still drinking milk. Tunton suddenly said out of the blue. He's still drinking milk now. Xiao Budian kicked backwards, directly kicking Tunton to the ground. His expression did not change as he calmly said, "You're a member of the imperial family?" "That's right, I'm called Shi Xingyun." The yellow-clothed girl smiled and said, "Speaking of which, I can also be considered your clan sister. It's just that I don't know, do you still recognize me?" Xiao Budian made a no sound, sizing her up. "So it's Princess Xingyun, Shi Tianhao greets you." Shi Xingyun smiled, very naturally changing the topic. Looking at the somewhat awkward Zhao Yan at the side, she smiled and said, "With Sister Yao Yao's talent, it's rare to see someone in the Celeritas sword sect. According to her past cultivation, under normal circumstances, she should have already succeeded in forming her nascent soul long ago. But she just likes to find people to fight, fighting for fun. Later on, she ran into an iron plate, fighting to the death with an old Yuanying monster. She was really impressive. She really killed that Yuanying monster, but she also suffered irreparable injuries, even her golden elixir cracked. Even the flowing light sword sovereign was unable to treat such injuries. Sister Yao Yao could only stay on the cloud-traversing peak to recuperate. However, with such injuries, there is no hope for her to form her nascent soul. However, she is indeed powerful. Although her cultivation could not improve further, she has recovered to her previous level." Shi Xingyun slowly said. This time, she came to participate in the Desolate Sea Assembly for a spirit herb called the Heaven-Mending Vine in the ancient Desolate Sea realm. It is currently the only medicine known to be able to repair the cracked golden elixir. She looked at Zhao Yan, then winked at Xiao Budian and the others. "She is your main opponent in this Desolate Sea Assembly. However, her cultivation is at the peak of the late stage of the golden elixir, unlike you, Tianhao, who already possesses such powerful strength at the early stage of the golden elixir." When Xiao Budian heard this, a bright smile appeared on his face. "Speaking of opponents, aren't you one?" Shi Xingyun's smile did not diminish. "Tianhao, other than brother Zhu Yi beside you, there are 3.5 other opponents. I can only count as half. Tao Yao Yao counts as one. There is a pair of sword companions from the Sun Moon Sword Sect. The two of them together count as one." Shi Xingyun turned her head and looked towards the distant horizon. "The last one has not arrived yet, but should be arriving soon." Chapter 279. The Dharma Assembly will start with the Foundation Building Cultivators Competition before the Golden Elixir period begins. It's fine if that cultivator arrives a little late, as long as he can make it to the final competition. Zhu Yi said lightly, "I have to thank Princess Xingyun for the reminder." Shi Xingyun turned around, tilted his head, and looked at Zhu Yi for a moment. Suddenly he laughed and said, "Speaking of which, that person is quite similar to brother Zhu Yi. He's also a scholar. He was the top scorer in the imperial examination of the Great Qin dynasty last year. He was ranked first in the imperial examination." Zhu Yi's eyes flashed. "Oh, to be able to stand out among the thousands of candidates of the Great Qin dynasty, this person must be very knowledgeable. Even if we can't compete in Dao techniques, we can still exchange knowledge. Very good, very good." Shi Xingyun giggled. "Are all the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong so arrogant? I'll be waiting to see." Looking at her leaving figure, Zhu Yi tilted his head slightly and said silently, "I don't think she's half." Lin Feng, who had been sitting with his eyes closed, suddenly smiled and said, "The Great Qin dynasty's royal family is legitimate. Yuanying Chong Yun, Golden Elixir Nebula. Although this saying hasn't been completely spread, it's not a secret." He opened his eyes and looked at Xiao Budian, smiling. "This sister of yours is not simple." Xiao Budian's expression was indifferent as he spread his hands. "It doesn't matter. In my realm, other than my own brothers and sisters, I'm invincible." "Master, you should at least have confidence in us," Lin Feng said leisurely. "Of course I have confidence in you, especially in you." Not waiting for a smile to appear on the little guy's face, Lin Feng continued, "I'm especially confident in your gluttony and ability to cause trouble." Xiao Budian choked and immediately felt guilty. He saw Lin Feng looking at him with a faint smile. You guys stole the storm cloud wind beast from the northern martial royal court, right? Xiao Budian chuckled and pushed Tunten and Zhuge Fengling in front of him. It was their idea. I'm just following them to prevent them from causing uncontrollable trouble. Tunten and Zhuge Fengling rolled their eyes at the same time and looked at Xiao Budian with disdain. Xiao Budian laughed and patted Tunten's belly. Don't worry, master. The fur and bones are all in there. Not even a single horsehair is left. I used to think her eating method was too crude, but now it seems like it is quite useful. Xiao Budian grinned and patted Tunten's little belly. Don't worry, master. The fur, skin, and bones are all inside. Not even a strand of horsehair is left. I used to think that her way of eating was too crude, but now it seems that it's quite useful. Tunten bared its teeth at him. Don't give me that. I haven't settled the score with you for kicking me just now. You were asking for it, Xiao Budian replied nonchalantly. Lin Feng ignored these clowns and turned to look at Yangqing. The young man was curiously looking at the cultivators from the other sex with a slightly nervous expression. Before in Yuzhou City, Lin Feng let the disciples go out to do their own things. Only Yangqing returned to her residence after taking a stroll, making use of the last bit of time to figure out Dao techniques and practice spells. She was like a nervous examinee revising before going to the exam. Perhaps he himself knew that the little bit of time he had would not be of much use, but he could not help but want to make use of that time, even if it was just for his own peace of mind. Lin Feng knew that Yangqing did not really want to participate in this Desolate Sea assembly. He might be curious about the ancient Desolate Sea realm, but he was still a little conflicted about competing with others. It was not that he was afraid, but he was not confident. Master can protect you for a while, and I can protect you forever, Lin Feng said indifferently. But think about it carefully. Is that really the life you want? Living under the wings of others forever, never experiencing wind and rain. Although it will be much less dangerous, it will also be much less exciting. Yangqing took a deep breath, composed himself, and said softly, Disciple understands. Disciple will definitely do his best and not embarrass the sect. It's not about losing face for yourself. It's not that easy to lose my master's face. Lin Feng looked into his eyes. Think about the Cloudwater Cave. Think about a certain person that you miss. Yangqing became spirited. Disciple was wrong. Don't worry, master. I know what to do. Lin Feng nodded in satisfaction and sighed in his heart. Fifth brother's willpower. There is still a long way to go. But as long as I can succeed, it will be worth it no matter how much effort I put in. His eyes met Yangqing's, and a Taoist formula was transmitted through an invisible bridge into Yangqing's mind. Yangqing quickly memorized the formula taught by Lin Feng. After memorizing it, he was a little confused. Master, these formula, Lin Feng said. This Taoist method can be regarded as a branch of Master's Taoist method. You will come into contact with it sooner or later, but if you learn it now, it will be of great help to improve your strength. However, how much you can comprehend depends on yourself. Yangqing nodded, sat down cross-legged, and began to carefully comprehend it. At this time, the first round of drawing lots for the competition between the cultivators in the foundation establishment stage had begun. Dao Master Chang Lu personally wrote the name of each cultivator, and then put the names into a huge copper bottle. Then, the names were drawn in pairs to determine the final order of the battle. All the leaders of the major sects were watching together. In this case, cheating was impossible. Even if there was only a little doubt, the final result would be rejected. If one could really cheat, then it was because one had great ability, and the others had nothing to say. However, Dao Master Changlu clearly did not have any plans to cheat. The others also expressed confidence in the results of the draw, and unanimously passed. Although the Sun Moon Sword sect was allowed to participate in the competition as a pair, in order to avoid arousing suspicion, Sun Moon Sword Venerable only chose 4 disciples to participate in the competition, 2 in a pair. Therefore, including Xianmen Tianzong, who had 1 less person, the first round of the Foundation Establishment Stage competition would have 3 vacancies. It was hard to say whether it was good news or bad news. Of the 3 vacancies in the first round, Two of them were Xianmen Tianzong disciples. Wang Lin and Yang Qing both vacated. Yu Hongyan was the only one who participated in the first round, and won without much effort. The first round of competition quickly determined the final 16. Most people actually did not care much about the first round. In the competition between the Foundation establishment stage disciples, only the top 8 could obtain a spot to enter the ancient desolate sea world. The second round of competition between the top 16 to the top 8 was the main show. However, the final result made the big shots of the various sects feel differently. Of the 16 people, there were 2 from the Purple Sky Dao, 2 from the Skypon sect, 2 from the Hua family, and 1 from the Celeritas sword sect. The Sun-Moon sword sect's dual sword harmony was indeed overbearing. The 2 pairs of 4 people all advanced to the top 16. Although they took up 2 spots, considering that Sun-Moon sword venerable only sent these 4 people to participate, it was equivalent to everyone advancing to the top 16. In the first round of competition, the Sun-Moon sword sect's pair also displayed superior strength. Although the opponents they met were all from the same sect, 2 against 2 was not the Sun-Moon sword sect's match at all. Not mentioning the difference in strength, just the level of tacit understanding. The temporary combination could not compare to the sword companions who were often together. On the other hand, Lin Feng's Xianmen Sky sect had 3 people participating in the competition, and all 3 of them advanced. Although it was also a 100% success rate of advancing, it didn't seem very convincing. After all, Wang Lin and Yang Qing both got a bye and advanced directly. It couldn't help but make others secretly scold them for getting lucky. What was slightly out of the ordinary was that only 2 people from the Great Qin dynasty's officials entered the top 16. But this was also within reason. After all, in the first round, they were very unlucky to fight amongst themselves. 2 Great Qin dynasty cultivators were drawn together, and only one could advance. That competition could also be considered the highlight of the first round. Both sides displayed their strong points, both with exceptional strength, making many people feel regretful. If they encountered cultivators from other sects, most likely it would be them who eliminated their opponents, and then both advancing. After the first round of competition, there was no rest. Immediately the second round of drawing lots began. The rules of the Desolate Sea Assembly were that after every round of competition, lots would be drawn anew. No one could predict who they might encounter in the next round. In Lin Feng's view, this kind of model has its pros and cons. It all depends on the strength of their supervision. If no trickery occurs, then this kind of rule can be considered to be relatively fair. During the first round of drawing lots, Lin Feng noticed that Wang Lin's gaze was tightly fixed on the copper bottle. When the result of him getting a bye was drawn, although Wang Lin's expression did not change, his gaze revealed disappointment. Lin Feng secretly laughed, knowing that Wang Lin was waiting to teach that Hua family's 17th young master, Wuxia, a lesson. Right at this time, Wang Lin and his opponent were already drawn. The result was not Wuxia, but a Great Qin dynasty imperial family disciple. And Wuxia's opponent was the sole remaining Celeritas sword sect disciple. Looking at the somewhat disappointed Wang Lin, Lin Feng patted his shoulder. "Keep your mind calm, don't let others affect you." Wang Lin nodded his head. After a moment of silence he said in a low voice, "I want to stop him outside of the top 8, thoroughly shattering his hopes." Lin Feng turned his head to look. The coldness in Wang Lin's eyes made him tremble a bit. Lin Feng couldn't help but start praying for Wuxia in his heart. "Brat, you're screwed." He thought for a moment, the corners of his mouth revealing a smile. "No matter what round you meet him in, the hidden dragon pot's defense mechanism will activate. But after entering the ancient desolate sea world, it will be different." Wang Lin's eyes immediately lit up, the corners of his mouth also revealing a smile. Master is right. Disciple now suddenly hopes that he can smoothly advance to the top 8. Lin Feng smiled. "Don't worry about others first, you brat, first charge into the top 8 for Master." "Don't worry, Master," Wang Lin said, already leaping up, jumping towards the mouth of the hidden dragon pot. The hidden dragon pot floating in the air is still only the size of a person's palm, but Wang Lin's body rapidly shrunk after flying to the mouth of the pot, finally becoming like a grain of sand falling into the hidden dragon pot. and his opponent also similarly entered the hidden dragon pot. Chapter 280. The hidden dragon pot floated in the air, projecting a light screen from the pot's mouth, showing the battle process inside. After the first round of eliminations, the remaining people were the cream of the crop. Lin Feng and the others were also somewhat interested. Silently, they watched the competition process. After the competition, a group of elders would also comment on the performance of their disciples. To be able to receive the comments and guidance of their sect's primordial spirit ancestors was a very precious opportunity, even for these proud sons of heaven who usually received preferential treatment in their sections. This was also a great reward for them from participating in the Desolate Sea Assembly. When the other disciples heard the comments of their primordial spirit ancestors, it was also a rare reward. Even if they could not enter the ancient Desolate Sea world, it was still a worthwhile trip. Lin Feng watched as Wang Lin fought with someone inside the hidden dragon pot. Both sides were evenly matched, and he could not help but laugh in his heart. Each of his disciples had a different fighting style. Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan were the same kind of people. When they started, they used big moves. They never pretended to be pigs to eat tigers. When a lion hunts a rabbit, it uses its full strength. It uses the simplest and most direct method to end the battle and eliminate the opponent. When fighting with them, your only choice was to also use your full strength from the start. Everyone would use big moves and meet on a narrow path, and the strong would win. If you wanted to preserve your strength at the start and keep your trump cards, then there was a high chance that you would not be able to use your trump cards until your death. In the end, you would lose a good hand in your own hands, and you would lose incomparably sullenly. Xiao Yan, on the other hand, was someone who liked to hold back. If he could use 30% of his strength to defeat his opponent, he would not use 40% of his strength. He hid his true strength in front of most people and suddenly released it when necessary, shocking the entire audience. In Lin Feng's heart, he liked to pretend and counterattack. He loved to do that the most. As for Xiao Budian, that brat, whether he pretended to be a pig to eat tigers or revealed his fangs from the start depended entirely on his mood. It was hard to say. In other words, it was also very unreliable. As for Yang Qing, this young man had too little experience in fighting with others. Lin Feng was still a little unsure, but judging from his visual observation, he was the spring type, striking only after the enemy had struck. Wang Lin was also an expert at pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. However, this was mainly because his current cultivation was slightly lower. Most of the time, the enemies he faced were stronger than him. This forced him to secretly accumulate his strength and then find the right opportunity to kill them in one strike, causing them to die with hatred. Now Wang Lin's opponent clearly didn't need him to use his full strength, but for some unknown reason, Wang Lin held back his strength. He would occasionally play around with his opponent, and after a long stalemate he took advantage of his opponent's carelessness and won. When Wang Lin came out of the hidden dragon pot, Hu Chen brushed past him and said with a sneer, "Not much. I heard that you didn't perform so badly in the Sand Continent. Were you deliberately hiding your strength? Or could it be that you were actually very weak at that time, and relied on external forces such as magic tools and talismans to support you?" Wang Lin glanced at him and said calmly, "I sincerely hope that you will also enter the top 8. Hu Chen laughed coldly. Wang Lin naturally wouldn't be doing this for his own good, but hinted that he would only have the qualifications to fight him after entering the top 8. "You don't have to worry about this." Hu Chen snorted. "I originally thought that there would be some experts in the royal family, but now it seems that they are too useless." Following behind Wang Lin, the defeated member of the royal family heard this and glared at him angrily. Hu Chen laughed coldly and ignored them. At this time, a young man wearing a bright yellow robe walked over expressionlessly. When the defeated member of the royal family saw him, his face instantly revealed a look of fear. The young man in the yellow robe didn't say a word and suddenly slapped out, directly knocking the member of the royal family to the ground. Wang Lin and Hu Chen's expressions changed at the same time, and they looked at the young man in the yellow robe. The young man in the yellow robe also looked at them and suddenly broke into a smile. My name is Shi Xiaoqian. I will have to ask for your guidance later. When he said the last few words, his voice was very soft and his eyes flickered with a strange light, moving people's hearts. Hua Chen's expression became serious. The Shi Xiaoqian in front of him had red lips and white teeth. Under the appearance of an extraordinarily handsome young man hid a power that even he, who was used to seeing blood, felt his heart palpitate. Even the most ferocious and strongest Foundation establishment demon general that he had killed before was not this terrifying. Hua Chen had only experienced this kind of feeling from demon commanders who had formed their demon cores, but the Shi Xiaoqian in front of him had undoubtedly not formed his golden elixir, and was still a Foundation establishment cultivator. On the other hand, Wang Lin's expression was normal as he glanced at Shi Xiaoqian. There will be a chance. Shi Xiaoqian smiled, revealing his snow-white teeth, and lightly clenched his teeth. Of course. Wang Lin nodded and immediately walked back. Xiao Budian and Yu Hongyan came up to greet him. The little guy said with a smile, "Congratulations on returning victorious third senior brother." "Brat, don't make fun of me." A faint smile appeared on Wang Lin's face. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly noticed that someone was looking at him from the side. Wang Lin looked over, and saw that it was a handsome young man dressed in white. Based on his attire, he was a disciple of the Heaven Pool sect. When the white-clothed young man saw Wang Lin look over, he couldn't help but smile. "Feng Zhong of the Heaven Pool sect. I was originally quite interested in you, but now I suddenly have no interest. Everyone says that you, the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong, are invincible in fights of magical powers within the same realm. I've never believed in rumors. I only believe in what I see with my own eyes." Feng Zhong's expression was indifferent. "I never underestimate my opponents, but I also don't overestimate them. I can see that you were holding back in that fight, but if you didn't hold back enough, then I really have no interest in you." Feng Zhong's gaze fell on Yu Hongyan, who was beside Wang Lin, and he suddenly revealed a smile. However, this smile seemed rather sinister. "I'm actually more interested in the person beside you." He slightly emphasized the word interested, appearing rather frivolous. He looked at Yu Hongyan, smiled and said, "She's a bit fierce, but she's really a beauty." Yu Hongyan's sword-like eyebrows gradually straightened. The little guy waved his hand at her, turned his head to look at Feng Zhong, and said very seriously, "Do you want to die?" Feng Zhong was speechless. He wanted to retort, but when he felt the terrifying waves of magical power coming from the little guy's body, he could only forcefully swallow his words. "You better pay attention to your words. This isn't a place for you to behave atrociously." At this time, another disciple of the Heaven Pool sect stood behind Feng Zhong. His powerful aura forcefully withstood the pressure brought by the little guy. Impressively, he was a cultivator of the golden elixir period. His aura was flawless, and his cultivation was in the late stage of the golden elixir period. Heaven Pool sect's Mujihai, the person who came, stared at the little guy and coldly said, "My junior brother can say whatever he wants to say. Who are you to control him? Do you think that you can be lawless just because you have the support of your master? Before you act atrociously, you should clearly see that there are some people you can't afford to provoke." The little guy did not care at all, and lightly said, "I will take responsibility for the words I said." It's best if you have the ability to take responsibility for the words someone said. He stared at Feng Zhong. "I'll say one thing right now. If you dare to say anything dirty to my senior sister again, you're a dead man. If you don't believe me, then try it." Being lectured by a child who looked no older than 11 or 12 years old, Mu Jihai and Feng Zhong felt a bit embarrassed. Coming from the Heaven Pool sect, they had always been able to walk sideways in the northern snowy plains. Mu Jihai stopped Feng Zhong and angrily laughed. "Oh, then I really have to try." "You?" Halfway through his words, he was suddenly interrupted by someone. "Junior brother Mu, bring junior brother Feng back. The next round of the competition is about to begin." Mu Jihai and Feng Zhong simultaneously shut their mouths and hatefully looked at the little guy. They simultaneously returned to the Heaven Pool sect's camp and stood behind a young man. That young man politely smiled and nodded towards the little guy and the others. However, The little guy could feel a bit gloomy from the other party's smile. He slightly frowned, and at this time, a rough voice suddenly sounded beside him. That's the most outstanding disciple of the Heaven Pool sect's younger generation, Song Qingyuan. He's the most sinister and cunning, a smiling tiger. The little guy, Wang Lin, and Yu Hongyan turned their heads to look. What appeared in front of them was a high-spirited large man dressed in a different race's clothing. His stature was as tall as Jieyu's in human form, and his body was flourishing with vitality. He was not the slightest bit inferior to Jieyu when he was still in the Demon Commander realm. My name is Du Kuan, and I come from the Northern Militant. The foreign race man laughed straightforwardly. The enemies of the Heaven Pool sect are my friends. The little guy's eyeballs spun around and he laughed. Yeah, friends. I really like your black cloud howling wind beasts. Can you give me a few? Du Kuan laughed. You have good eyesight. My clan's black cloud howling wind beasts are known as the most durable spirit beast mounts in the divine land. Yeah. The little guy repeatedly nodded his head. A sentence was already at the tip of his mouth, but he forcefully swallowed it back. The taste is also very good. On this side, the little guy was trying to get the other party's horse. On the other side, within the dragon-concealing pot, Wuxia had already finished his battle, and laughed loudly. How can a greenhouse flower like you compare to me who has experienced mountains of corpses and seas of blood? His opponent was called Chu Xinjin, and was the only remaining Celeritas Sword Sect Foundation establishment stage disciple after entering the top 16. At this moment his face was ashen, and he didn't dare to look at the expressions of his sect elders. Chu Xinjin's defeat indicated that the Celeritas Sword Sect Foundation establishment stage disciples were completely annihilated, and not a single person entered the top 8. From top to bottom of the Celeritas Sword Sect, everyone's expressions were ugly. Only Celeritas Sword Lord's expression was normal, without the slightest change. Azura Lord Huoxiu's face also didn't have any complacent expression. Lord Chonglu lightly sighed and said, Next round, Xianmen Tianzong Yangqing against Tianqi School's Fang Zhong. In the Tianqi School camp, Fang Zhong coldly laughed. Within Xianmen Tianzong's group of people, this is the most boring opponent. I'll crush him first, then find the other two to slowly settle the score. Yangqing also finished his meditation at this time, silently standing up from the ground. His movements were slightly stiff. In the eyes of the primordial spirit big shots, they all secretly shook their heads. How could they not see that Yangqing was a bit nervous? Let's not talk about his cultivation level first. This mentality was very bad. Lin Feng looked at the silent Yangqing, the corners of his mouth instead revealing a smile. Chao Wei was expressionless, his gaze sweeping past the smile on Lin Feng's mouth, suddenly opening his mouth and saying, Lin Feng, do you dare to make a bet with me? Chapter 281. Bet. Lin Feng looked indifferent and said indifferently, What do you want to bet? Chao Wei said, Naturally, we want to bet on who will win between the disciples of our two families. The surrounding primordial soul experts became interested when they heard this, and all their attention was focused on Lin Feng and Chao Wei. Dao Master Lan Ting frowned slightly, and Northern Militant Wuxian Prince even scolded. Chao Wei, you're the master of a sect, but you're a person who has cultivated the primordial soul. Although Xianmen Tianzong had been in the limelight recently, these primordial spirit big shots would not be moved by rumors. They only believed in the facts they saw with their own eyes. They could all see Yangqing's current state. Chao Wei was clearly picking on the weak one to bully. Chao Wei ignored Prince Wuxian's doubts and said indifferently, He can choose not to accept my bet. Hearing that there was a bet, Zhuge Guang was the most excited person, but at this time, he also frowned slightly. If Lin Feng did not accept Chao Wei's bet, it was clear that even he, as a master, was not optimistic about Yangqing. At Lin Feng's and Chao Wei's positions, there is no longer a need to prove anything, so there is no problem of face or fighting spirit. It's just that if Lin Feng tacitly admits defeat, it will damage his own family's morale, and even more so, it will deal a blow to Yangqing's already weak confidence. The embankment of 1,000 miles collapsed because of an ant hole. A small mistake might be the beginning of the rise of the celestial sect of wonders being interrupted. Shi Zhongyue looked at Lin Feng with interest, wanting to see how he would respond. Lin Feng was silent for a moment and said, "You and I bet our disciples for fun. What's the difference between this and treating them like fighting dogs?" Qiao Wei said without hesitation, "The bet we win in the end belongs to the winning disciple." At this point, Lin Feng had no choice but to respond. He looked up at Qiao Wei and said, "According to what you said, you seem to have taken a fancy to something in my hand on behalf of your disciple?" "Yes." Qiao Wei nodded calmly. He didn't try to hide anything and said straightforwardly, "I heard that you have a strange fruit in your possession. It's called the icy fruit of fire. If Feng Zhong wins, we'll use this as a wager. What do you think?" Lin Feng's expression did not change, but his pupils contracted slightly. He was bewildered. How did this guy know that I have a frosty fire ice solid? The fiery ice fruit was a rare treasure that Lin Feng had obtained through the system's lottery when he had just formed his gold core. It was an extremely cold fruit that grew on the fiery wood in extremely hot places. This fruit had both hot and cold characteristics. When it encountered extreme cold, it would turn cold air into burning flames. The colder it was, the hotter it would be. When it encountered extreme heat, it would be the exact opposite. It would turn fire into ice. The hotter it was, the colder it would be. This item had only fallen into Lin Feng's hands once, and that was when he was searching for the living soil. He had used it in order to enter the 100 Herbs Ancestors' secret pill room on the eternal spring peak of the 100 Herbs sect. Other than that, Lin Feng had never used this rare treasure again. After using the frosty fire ice solid, it might leave behind a unique aura of spiritual energy, but logically speaking, it shouldn't take long for it to dissipate. Lin Feng pondered. Moreover, when the Gung Metal Tiger King attacked the mountain, Nanhua and I joined in the fun. Together with the landlord, the 100 Herbs Ancestor, we turned the eternal spring peak and the secret pill room into ruins. Qiao Wei had cultivated his primordial spirit, and his transcendence energy was extremely high. Perhaps he still had the ability to excavate the remaining aura of spiritual energy from the ruins. But it definitely couldn't be too long. Otherwise, the aura of spiritual energy would naturally dissipate between heaven and earth. In other words, not long after Lin Feng and the others left, Qiao Wei went to the Eternal Spring Peak. The problem was that the Eternal Spring Peak was located at the southernmost part of the Great Hengduan mountain range in the south of the Divine Land. Qiao Wei was the sect leader of the Celestial Pool sect in the Arctic snowfield. The two of them, one in the north and one in the south, had to cross almost the entire Divine Land. Why would Qiao Wei go to the Great Hengduan mountain range for no reason? However, a strange item like the frosty fire ice solid was indeed a rare treasure for the cultivators of the Heavenly Pool sect who cultivated both ice and fire. A lot of thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind, but they were all things that happened in an instant. He looked at Qiao Wei, flipping his palm, and a half-blue half-red fruit appeared in his palm. It is precisely the corporeal fire ice. Since you want my frosty fire ice solid, then your bet will also be decided by me. Lin Feng said slowly, as if he had made a great decision. Qiao Wei nodded. Of course. Lin Feng said, I have long heard that the Heavenly Pool sect produces a kind of spiritual spring called the Frosty Ice Dew. I want this thing for my disciple. Qiao Wei was just about to speak when Lin Feng interrupted him and said slowly, in terms of quantity, I want 100 drops. Shi Zhongyue's mouth twitched. The others shook their heads slightly. Dao Master Lan Lei and Prince Suoxian smiled at the same time. Everyone sighed. Lin Feng really dared to ask. The Frosty Ice Dew was famous all over the world. It was the treasure of the Heavenly Pool sect. Even within the Heavenly Pool sect, only a few people could enjoy it. The total annual production was only a dozen drops. But Lin Feng asked for nearly 10 years' worth of production. Even though the Celestial Pool sect will also store frost dew, but taking into account the normal consumption of daily cultivation, the storage is also extremely limited. Lin Feng's 100 drops will basically empty out the Celestial Pool sect's current storage of frost dew. Qiao Wei frowned slightly. The value of the bet is completely unequal. Are you deliberately acting shamelessly to avoid the battle? Lin Feng was expressionless and did not speak, as if he had acquiesced. Okay, I'll bet with you. Qiao Wei pondered for a moment, and said with emotion. He raised his hand and a cloud of ice mist floated in the air. Its specific shape could not be seen. It was like a dream, but it was a magic weapon of his. In the ice mist, many tiny water droplets that looked like ice crystals could be vaguely seen floating and sinking. It was the frosty ice dew that Lin Feng asked for as the bet. Now do you dare to bet? Qiao Wei stared intently at Lin Feng. Lin Feng sighed and did not say anything. He threw his hand and the frosty ice reality also flew into the air, floating in the air. Everyone thought that Lin Feng was at his wit's end, and had been forced into a corner by Qiao Wei. They did not know that Lin Feng was sneering in his heart at this moment. Bet with me? Lose so much that you will have to wear your pants. He sent a telepathic message to Yang Qing. Silly boy, don't be so conflicted. The new Dao technique that I've taught you doesn't mean that you have to display it in this Dharma assembly. With your current cultivation, it's not difficult for you to defeat your opponent. Remember, you are very strong, stronger than you think. Hearing Lin Feng's words, Yang Qing's body trembled. She looked at Lin Feng and nodded. Her state of mind gradually calmed down. The other primordial spirit realm big shots also noticed Yang Qing's change. They all clicked their tongues in wonder. Is this considered a brave man with a high reward? Hearing that there is a reward of 100 drops of frosty ice dew, he suddenly has a fighting spirit? That's not right. This boy is obviously completely relaxed. It does not look like his fighting spirit has been aroused. Could it be that the master of Xianmen told him that it does not matter even if he loses? Only Qiao Wei's gaze moved between Lin Feng and Yang Qing. He had a bad feeling in his heart. Feng Zhong did not feel this way. Looking at the frosty ice dew in the sky, his eyes were burning. This thing is almost like giving it to me for free. He looked at Wang Lin and Yu Hongyan in Xianmen Tianzong's camp and sneered. He was the first to jump into the hidden dragon pot. Yang Qing took a deep breath and also jumped into the hidden dragon pot. Inside the pot was a completely independent heavenly passage world. The scenery was beautiful. Feng Zhong landed in the middle of the mountains. Looking at Yang Qing, he sneered. Both of his hands formed a technique. Suddenly, a wave of cold air rose around his body. It eroded the surrounding mountain streams and froze them into ice cubes. Outside, Xiao Budian looked at the world in the pot reflected in the light and shadow illusion. He raised his eyebrows. It's useful? Fifth senior brother's lunar true water not only controls the flow of water, it can even control the frozen glaciers. Feng Zhong looked at Yang Qing and smiled. You also fought in the Battle of the Sand Continent. How could I not know that you have the lunar true water? The problem is you can control water and ice, but what about flames? His technique changed. The frozen glaciers immediately changed into pale white flames. However, these flames did not have the slightest bit of heat. Instead, they were bone-piercingly cold. This was the Heavenly Pool Sect's signature ability, Ice Flame. Under Feng Zhong's control, the surging ice flame turned into a cold pale sea of flames that surrounded Yang Qing. The powerful force attracted the attention of the spectators outside. All of the participating Foundation establishment stage cultivators had serious expressions. Feng Zhong was indeed a chatterbox, but he also had real skills. Although he looked arrogant, he actually had a deep understanding of each of his opponents in order to know himself and his enemy. Hua Chen looked at this scene and murmured. In this spell assembly, the ones who pose the greatest threat to me are Shi Xiaoqian, Xianmen Tianzong's Yu Hongyan, and this Feng Zhong in front of me. Several primordial spirit cultivators also looked at the illusion in the pot. The strength that Feng Zhong displayed was naturally not worth mentioning, but it did not prevent them from giving a fair evaluation. For Foundation establishment stage cultivators, he is quite outstanding. Dao Master Chang Lu slightly nodded and looked at Qiao Wei. Congratulations to Sect Master Qiao for producing such an outstanding talent. Northern militant Zhuoxian Prince's expression did not change, but he also secretly nodded. His old rival's talent did not show a break, and the contest between the two sides would continue for a long time. Dao Master Chang Lu is overpraising me. Chao Wei looked at Lin Feng and said lightly, "Some things cannot be avoided." Lin Feng, who had been expressionless until now, suddenly smiled, as if the clouds were dispelling the sun. "I feel the same." Before he finished speaking, he saw that in the hidden dragon pot, Yangqing calmly faced the ice flame sea that surrounded him, and suddenly put his palms together. A green stream of water flashing with a 7-colored light suddenly rushed out from his side, and quickly merged into the surrounding ice flame sea. The green stream of water disappeared, but the ice flame sea became more and more intense, as if it had swallowed the green stream of water. But Feng Zhong could not be happy. Instead, he was shocked, as if he had seen a ghost. The next moment, the ice flame sea suddenly became chaotic. The inside was constantly surging, and in the end, it began to collapse and dissipate. It was as if Feng Zhong himself had failed to cast the spell. The people watching the battle outside the pot were stunned, and did not know what had happened. They stared blankly at the originally menacing ice flame sea turning into a joke with a strong start and a weak finish. Others could not see the reason behind it, but several primordial spirit cultivators could see it. Chao Wei's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. In his ears came Lin Feng's light voice. "On behalf of my disciple, I thank you for these 100 drops of freezing ice dew." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.